Chapter 119. Gu Xingyin had a deep impression of the ice and snow domain because it was so famous. The male model was the top international supermodel, Ludwig Gardner. The female model, Cecilia, was not very famous, but she became one of the most popular female supermodels because of this fashion show. At that time, Song Cici was not very famous. Although she did not know why Ludwig, who was already an international supermodel, chose this set of clothes, Gu Xingyin was not willing to give up this opportunity this time. Cici, are you going to participate in the Jianghu International Fashion Week this time? Gu Xingyin asked Song Cici, who was holding the clothes to compare on her. Song Cici paused. Ku, how did you know? She was a little surprised. She had never told anyone about this. Jianghu Fashion Week was one of the top international fashion weeks. Although she was encouraged by her mentor, Kevin, the design director of the international luxury brand CCRU, to show her work at this fashion week, she did not tell anyone. This girl was still a little unconfident and was afraid that others would say that she was overestimating herself. Gu Xingyin said with a smile, "We grew up together. Do you think I don't know what you are thinking?" She continued, "When the time comes, I will be your model, okay?" Song Cici was not just surprised, but pleasantly surprised. She knew how talented Ruan Kui was in the field of modeling. Many international fashion brands had tried to invite her to be their global spokesperson. However, since she entered the entertainment industry 4 years ago, she had not shown up at any fashion week. She was actually willing to step on the runway again for her. Gu Xingyin looked at Song Cici, who seemed to be so touched that she was about to cry. He laughed and said, "Okay, I just believe in your talent. I'm betting that the clothes you designed this time can make me stand out in the limelight. If the clothes you design are too ugly, I will regret it." Song Cici exhaled. When she talked about her design, her eyes lit up. "Let's go, I will show you." She pulled Gu Xingyin and walked straight into the innermost room. Song Cici took out the key and opened the door. Gu Xingyin realized that the room was surprisingly big, but there were only 2 sets of clothes in the whole room. Song Cici walked to one of the hangers and lifted the curtain covering the clothes. Gu Xingyin's eyes widened instantly. So beautiful. What appeared in front of him was a silver-white female gown. The neckline was a gorgeous lace V-neck design, and the material was light and elegant silk. It was perfect to the touch and fall. The transparent long sleeves were covered with snowflakes, and the layers of the gown were dotted with countless tiny diamonds. It was as if countless snowflakes had fallen around her, blooming with elegant colors under the light. Luxurious beyond compare. Gu Xingyin was amazed. She could tell at a glance that the clothes were inlaid with at least hundreds of small diamonds, all of which were genuine. Song Cici looked at Gu Xingyin's eyes and was also very happy. "What do you think?" Gu Xingyin took a deep breath and looked at her sincerely. "Cici, you will definitely shock the whole world." Song Cici didn't seem to expect to receive such high praise, but she was very happy. "Then I will take advantage of your auspicious words." Gu Xingyin asked, "Have you decided on the male model?" Song Cici shook his head. "The mentor has seen my work. He said that he already has a suitable male model." Gu Xingyin understood. It turned out that Kevin had come forward. No wonder Ludwig had chosen Song Cici's work at that time. Chapter 120. Sure enough, the next day, Gu Xingyin received a call from Song Cici. Ku, do you know who my mentor found for me? Ludovic Gardner. That's my Prince Charming. To be able to make him walk a show for me in my lifetime, I can die without regrets. Gu Xingyin waited patiently for Song Cici to finish venting her emotions. Then she asked, "Has it been decided?" Song Cici calmed down a little and said, "Not yet. He will come over this afternoon to see my works." Ku, come with him. Try it on and see if there is anything that needs to be changed. Gu Xingyin nodded and called her agent. Sister Chen, I plan to participate in the Jianghu Fashion Week next month. Chen Rong was surprised. You plan to return to the fashion industry? Gu Xingyin shook her head and said with a smile, that's not what I mean. It's just that Cece is going to participate in this fashion week. I promised her that I would be her mute. Chen Rong's tone was a little worried. I know you are very good friends, but although Miss Song is talented, she has never participated in such a big event. What if? Have you considered your image? At Wan Kei's level, every move had to be in line with her identity. She hadn't been on the runway for 4 years. If the effect this time was not satisfactory, it would be a big blow to her reputation. Gu Xingyi knew that Chen Rong was thinking for her. She chuckled. Sister Chen, if you knew who Cece's model was this time, I'm afraid you wouldn't say that. Chen Rong was a little curious. Oh? Who is it? Gu Xingyin said softly, Ludovic Gardner. Chen Rong was silent for a few seconds. After a while, she said excitedly, who did you say it was? I didn't hear wrong. Is it Ludovic? King Ludovic of the runway? Gu Xingyi knew that this would be the reaction. This serious and somewhat old-fashioned agent was actually a die-hard fan of Ludwig. Her tone was light as she said, Sigh, I'm going to try on some clothes this afternoon. I don't know, maybe we can take a group photo or an autograph or something. Chen Rong interrupted her, Are you at home now? I'll be there in half an hour. How can I miss such an important event? Gu Xingyin hung up the phone. Done. She knew that Chen Rong would not stop her from bringing up Ludwig. Not only was Chen Rong a fan of his, but he was also known as the king of the fashion industry. His shows had never disappointed. In the afternoon, Gu Xingyin came to Song Cece's house as promised. She was chatting with an old man with white hair. Kevin, long time no see. Gu Xingyin greeted him. This person was Song Cece's mentor, the design director of CRUU. Hey. Ruan. Kevin gave her a warm hug. 2 years ago, the two had worked together. At that time, Kevin had asked Wan Kei to be her exclusive model, but he had been rejected. However, this cute old man had always been thinking about Wan Kei. The fashion industry is really dim without your figure. Ruan, I heard from Cece that you want to be her model. Kevin's eyes were shining. Gu Xingyin nodded. Great. Kevin praised loudly. The first thing I thought of when I saw this set of clothes was you. Only you can satisfy people's fantasy of the Ice Queen. Chapter 121. Looks like I'm late. A deep male voice sounded. Gu Xingyin followed the sound and looked over. She recognized the man at first glance. It was Ludwig Gardner. Although Wan Kei had never seen this man before, she had seen his face in magazines many times. But for some people, you would only be able to feel their charm when you meet them in person. Ludwig Gardner's facial features were undoubtedly good-looking. Whether it was his eyebrows, eyes, nose bridge, or even his lips, which were praised by countless people, they were all in just the right places. However, for anyone who saw him in person, the first thing they would notice would definitely not be his appearance, but his aura. It was as if they were facing a king, a god, and they were imprisoned in his omnipresent domain. This was the aura of a top supermodel. Kevin said, Hey. You're late today. Remember to treat us to dinner later. Ludwig's beautiful blue eyes were like the deep starry sky. His smile was extremely charming. No problem. He turned his head. Then, let me first get to know these two beautiful ladies. Song Cece was already stunned when she saw Ludwig. Only now did she come back to her senses. Looking at the face that was more impactful in reality than in magazines, her face instantly turned red. Hello, I'm the designer, Song Cece. Ludwig bent down and shook hands with him. Gu Xingyin, on the other hand, greeted him generously. Hello, Mr. Gardner. I've heard a lot about you. This man was so tall. Wan Kei was 1.78 meters tall, which was already considered very tall. This man was a head taller than her, so he was definitely more than 1.9 meters tall. Ludwig Gardner winked at him and spoke in authentic Z Nation's language. What a polite way to address me. You can call me Ludwig, the beautiful Miss Ruanqi. When he smiled, his eyes seemed to be filled with deep affection, which made people want to drown in them. Gu Shengyin also smiled. Then, Ludwig, I hope we get along well. This man was indeed charming. If she didn't already have a partner, she might have been moved by him. Kevin suddenly said in a strange tone, sigh, poor old Kevin, no one cares about him. The lovely ladies only like handsome young men. Pfft. Gu Shengyin couldn't help but laugh. Kevin, this old urchin, was really funny. Let's take a look at the clothes. Song Sisi was interrupted and remembered his business. She first showed off her female outfit. So beautiful. Ludwig didn't hide the shock in his eyes. He looked at Ruanqi. Is Miss Ruan the model for this dress? Ruanqi smiled at him. I'm here for the same reason as Mr. Ludwig. Then I'm honored. Song Sisi opened the men's clothing again. This time, Ludwig looked at the clothes seriously. Finally, he straightened his body and said to Song Sisi, let's go. Miss Song Sisi, you really are an amazing designer. Song Sisi was a little nervous. Then, Ludwig, are you willing to be my model? Ludwig's mouth curved into a charming smile. He didn't answer directly. Instead, he looked at Gu Shengyin. If Miss Ruan is willing, I naturally have no objections. Chapter 122. His words made everyone look at Gu Shengyin. Kevin even had a hint of ridicule in his eyes. Gu Shengyin smiled calmly and blinked. Ludwig, if I were a little narcissistic, would I think that you've fallen in love with me? Ludwig laughed softly. Miss Ruanqi is the dream lover of countless people. Maybe I'll really fall in love with you at first sight. Gu Shengyin seemed helpless. All right, it seems that we're destined to cooperate this time. As soon as she said this, everyone understood what she meant. She agreed. Ludwig stretched out his hand again. Happy cooperation. Song Sisi couldn't wait. Quick, you two go try on the clothes. Oh my God, I can't wait to see the combination of His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen. Gu Shengyin took the clothes to the fitting room. When both sides came out, they were shocked by each other's beauty. Gu Shengyin's appearance was originally imposing, and her temperament was different from ordinary people after the tempering of several worlds. This set of clothes seemed to be tailor-made for her. She wore a crown of ice and snow and stood there as if she really was the only queen in the world of ice and snow. Extremely cold and also extremely beautiful. But Ludwig was different. He was the queen's most loyal knight. His style was also silver white, and the close-fitting design outlined his perfect figure at a glance. The cloak of the same color fell to the ground, adding a sense of sternness. His blue eyes were filled with love and loyalty as he looked at his only queen and knelt down on one knee. My Majesty. He leaned over and gently kissed the queen's ring. Kacha. Song Sisi clutched his chest and held his phone. I can't take it anymore. Oh my God, I can guarantee that if this photo spreads, many people's blood will be emptied. After being interrupted by Song Sisi, the atmosphere disappeared without a trace. Ludwig let go of Gu Shengyin's hand and stood up. Gu Shengyin also breathed a sigh of relief. Being stared at by Ludwig like that, she actually felt her heart race. The few of them discussed their own ideas again. By the time they finished talking, they realized that it was already dinner time. Ludwig said, I promised Kevin to treat you guys to a meal. I wonder if you guys are willing to do me the honor? Of course, they had no objections. Gu Shengyin remembered something and called Chen Rong to come over. Chen, fangirl Rong successfully got a group photo and an autograph of her idol and left with a satisfied look. The four of them did not expect that the next day, the news of them eating together would be exposed. The movie queen dines with the king of the fashion industry. Movie queen Ruanqi, deskmate with CUU designer and international supermodel, is suspected to be returning to the fashion industry. Ruankei and Ludwig had an intimate conversation, and the two are suspected to be deeply in love. Most of these reports were just groundless accusations. Gu Xingyin just skimmed through them and put them aside. Her Weibo account blew up frowny face. Her Majesty the Queen and His Majesty the King are together? My baby's life is complete. Is Her Majesty the Queen returning to the fashion industry? I beg Her Majesty the Queen to return to the runway. Her Majesty the Queen is so beautiful. Ludwig is so handsome. Who is that foreign man? He's so handsome, but Her Majesty the Queen belongs to Brother Fong. Don't tear apart Brother Fong and Ku. I beg Her Majesty the Queen to return to the runway. I beg Her Majesty the Queen to return to the runway +1. I beg Her Majesty the Queen to return to the runway +2. I beg Her Majesty the Queen to return to the runway +1. Chapter 123. Gu Xingyin was lying on the bed with a facial mask on her face as she scrolled through the comments on her phone. Chen Rong glanced at her and said, "This won't affect you much, but don't tell anyone that you're going to participate in Tsinghua Fashion Week." Gu Xingyin said, "I know, Sister Chen." Chen Rong left quickly. Gu Xingyin opened her account and sent a message, "I met Ludwig. He's really handsome." After sending the message, she turned off her phone, washed up, and went to bed. When she turned on her phone the next day, she found that her Weibo post had been reposted countless times. It turned out that Ludwig had followed her and reposted her Weibo post with a comment, "You're also very beautiful, Your Majesty." He even added an emoticon. Fuck, when I think of the powerful king using emoticons, I'm so shamelessly cute. This is so full of JQ. What's with this faint feeling of pampering? Tell me this isn't my imagination. This isn't your imagination +1, this isn't your imagination +2, this isn't your imagination +3, this isn't your imagination plus ID number. I'm here to destroy the formation. Although I'm a firm supporter, I somehow feel that the King X Queen CP is also very cool. What should I do? Long live the two kings. Long live the two kings. At this time, Gu Xingyin's phone rang. A director contacted me today. He has a movie on hand and asked if you want to take it. Chen Rong said over the phone. Gu Xingyin wailed, "Sister Chen, what happened to the 1-week holiday? Don't you love me anymore?" Chen Rong was cold and unmoved. The director is Li Fengyun. Gu Xingyin immediately changed her words. What movie? Let me see. Chen Rong knew her reaction would be like this. She said, "I've already replied to Director Li. I'll give him a reply tomorrow. I'll go to your place this afternoon." Gu Xingyin actually had a rough idea of which movie it was. Li Fengyun was one of the most famous directors in Country Z. His style was known for its grandeur and strong rhythm, which was a necessity for commercial films. However, Director Li's films were always able to dig out a trace of humanistic feelings amidst the passion. He was one of the rare directors who was well received and popular. Calculating the time, among the movies that he had been preparing recently, there was only one that required an actress of Ruankei's caliber, Divinity. This film was known as a milestone in Z country's film industry. Not only did it reach the peak of 10 billion in box office sales, but it also swept all the awards in that year's film festival, creating a brand new model. In this movie, the main lead and the main supporting roles all became the most popular people in the world. At that time, Ruankei had accepted another drama. It was a foreign commercial blockbuster that had also cost a lot of money to shoot, but it was overshadowed by the Divinity. This time, Gu Xingyin wouldn't give up this opportunity. Moreover, it seemed that Ming Shujia also played a supporting role in this film. She wouldn't give Ming Shujia any chance to stand out. At this time, what was Ming Shujia doing? She was trying her best to avoid a perverted hand on her thigh. Why? You're not willing? The drunk man opened his mouth and his breath reeked of alcohol. Why are you still pretending to be a chaste woman? If you're so noble, how did you get those photos? I'll be frank here. If you accompany me for one night, I'll throw money at you for that role. How about it? The man looked at her from the corner of his eyes. Ming Shujia's heart trembled with anger. Her face turned pale, but in the end, she revealed a sweet smile and slowly placed her hands on the man's chest. No matter what, she couldn't lose this movie. Chapter 124. Chen Rong came quickly. As Gu Xingyin expected, she had the script for Divinity. Gu Xingyin looked at it for a while and took a deep breath. Sister Chen, tell Director Li that I'll take this script. Chen Rong wasn't surprised. She nodded. I'll reply to them later. We'll discuss the details later. Hello, Sister Kei. Hello, Sister Wan. Gu Xingyin walked in the company and many artists took the initiative to greet her. Gu Xingyin returned a friendly smile. A few newly signed artists were secretly discussing. Oh my god, movie queen Wan is so friendly. She doesn't put on airs at all. As newly signed artists who weren't well known, they had learned a lot in the past few days. Many A-list and B-list artists didn't even look at them. They didn't expect the most famous movie queen Wan Kei to be so kind. The agent in charge of guiding them looked at them and said, movie queen Wan is famous for her good temper in the entertainment industry. She never makes things difficult for newcomers. Wan Kei's company, Star Entertainment, was one of the biggest entertainment companies in the country. She had a few award-winning actors and actresses under her wing, as well as many A-listers. However, even here, Wan Kei was undoubtedly the number one star. Kei. A clear voice sounded. Gu Xingyin smiled at him. Brother Fong. The person who came was wearing a light gray windbreaker. He was slender and had gentle eyes. Fong Ming, 30 years old, had won the Movie King twice and was one of the male artists who had worked with Wan Kei the most. They were called the best on-screen couple. Many fans hoped that they could become a couple and called them the Funka couple. Fong Ming had always liked Wan Kei, but Wan Kei had always treated him as a good friend and a good partner. She had even explicitly rejected him before. However, Fong Ming didn't seem to have given up. The two were here to participate in the promotion of a summer blockbuster that the company was promoting this year. Fong Han and Wan Kei weren't the main characters. Fong Han played the brother of the main character and was barely an important supporting role. As for Wan Kei, she only appeared once. When the filming of the movie started, both of their schedules were very tight. The company asked them to spare some time just to use their reputation to promote the movie. It had to be said that the company's move was very successful. Many fans of the two were willing to spend dozens of yuan to buy a movie ticket just to see their idols in action. Why? I'm the main character. Those two dressing rooms are my favorite. Why did you give them to someone else? As soon as the two of them reached the dressing room, they heard the voice complaining. Next, a voice that sounded like an agent was advising her, my lady, what are Wan Kei and Fong Ming's positions? Just bear with it for now. When you become more famous than the two of them, the best resources will naturally be yours. As the manager spoke, he opened the door as if he wanted to get something. When he saw Gu Xingyin and Fong Ming standing at the door with a faint smile, his face froze. He forced a smile and said, Sister Wan and Brother Fong are here? Are you here to get styled for the press conference? He quickly stood aside and made way for the two of them. The two of them didn't speak. Chen Rong, who had been following behind them, slowly said, it's the company's rules which artists use which level of equipment. If Miss Lin has any objections, you can reflect to the company. Then, without even looking at the manager's extremely ugly expression, he walked in leisurely. Chapter 125. Gu Xingyin had a good impression of Lin Baihe. She came from a good family. This time, she was able to act in this movie because of her good looks and acting skills. The most important reason was that her father, who spoiled his daughter, spent a lot of money on the crew. It just so happened that several famous artists in Star Entertainment couldn't spare the time, so the role was given to her. At this moment, her agent was probably very anxious. In the original plot, Lin Baihe didn't develop well. She had a bad temper and was arrogant. Because she ridiculed Ming Shujia, the latter hated her. After Ming Shujia became famous, she didn't forget to suppress her. Lin Baihe had always been a mediocre artist in the entertainment circle. Sure enough, when Gu Xingyin went back, Lin Baihe's agent took her to apologize to Wan Qi. Sister Wan, I'm really sorry. Baihe is young and ignorant. She offended the senior and apologizes to you. Lin Baihe, who was standing behind him, stepped forward and bowed at Gu Xingyin, apologizing in a low voice. Gu Xingyin saw that her eyes were red. She must have been scolded by her agent. She waved her hand. In this entertainment circle, it's better to keep your mouth shut. After Gu Xingyin walked away, the agent glared at Lin Baihe. Fortunately, it's Sister Wan today. If it's someone with a bad temper, you won't be able to survive in star entertainment. When Gu Xingyin went downstairs, she unexpectedly saw Ming Shujia. She was walking into the elevator with several young actresses. Gu Xingyin raised her eyebrows. She remembered that Ming Shujia wasn't an artist in star entertainment. What was going on? Ming Shujia was here to sign a contract. She used to be in a small, unknown company. There weren't any famous celebrities, and she didn't have a powerful agent. Ming Shujia knew that it was better to lean on a big tree. Star Entertainment had a big background and resources. Although there were many artists and competition was fierce, she was confident that she could stand out. Gu Xingyin was surprised when he learned that Ming Shujia had successfully signed a contract with Star Entertainment. She was a 24-year-old female artist who was still a B-lister and had such rumors about her. She was even able to sign a contract with Star Entertainment, which had always been strict. Ming Shujia was not a simple woman. However, this is more interesting, isn't it? Gu Xingyin smiled slowly. The stronger the opponent, the greater the sense of achievement when he could trample her under his feet. Gu Xingyin was in a cafe with not many people, so she did not know that she had been recognized by a fan and that her smile had been photographed. A certain forum suddenly exploded. OP was bored and came out for a cup of coffee. I didn't expect to be so lucky to meet Her Majesty the Queen. He even secretly took a photo. My HP bar is empty, and I'm already kneeling under Her Majesty the Queen's skirt. Let's cut to the chase. Take the picture. On the sofa on the second floor, Her Majesty the Queen's looks are off the charts. That devilish smile is so mesmerizing. Desktop has been changed. Mommy asked me why the screen is so clean. Looking at the decorations around, I can already guess where this place is. Damn, the OP is a tycoon. Upstairs, don't go. Where is this place? I want to form a group and fight Her Majesty the Queen. Upstairs +1, oh my god, I'm turning gay. Why are you so handsome, Her Majesty the Queen? Her Majesty the Queen is my husband. If you don't agree, let's fight. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Chapter 126. When Gu Xingyin arrived at the restaurant, she saw Ludwig looking at something on his phone. Her eyes were sharp, and she immediately saw herself on the screen. Looking at the background, she must have been secretly photographed in the cafe earlier. When Ludwig saw her, he didn't have the slightest intention of restraining himself. He saved the photo in the album right in front of her. Gu Xingyin was speechless. Ludwig smiled and said, "It's beautiful." Gu Xingyin said, "Thank you." Ludwig moved the menu in front of her. "What would you like to eat?" Seeing her look around, he smiled considerately. "I heard Miss Song recommend it. She said it's very safe here and we don't have to worry about being photographed by the paparazzi." After Gu Xingyin ordered the dishes, the waiter who had been waiting by the side quickly took the food and left. Ludwig was pouring wine for Gu Xingyin. His slender and fair fingers gripped the goblet, and the translucent red wine reflected in it was exceptionally beautiful. Gu Xingyin was dazed. This man's every move was full of indescribable charm. Wine for the beauty. Ludwig raised the wine glass in his hand. Gu Xingyin took a sip and praised, "You speak Z country well." Ludwig smiled. "My grandmother is Z country. I like Z country very much." The food was quickly served. Gu Shengyin ate slowly and elegantly. Ludwig looked at her the whole time. His gaze was too intense, and Gu Shengyin couldn't ignore it. She put down the cutlery in her hand. "Mr. Gardner," Ludwig interrupted her. "Call me Ludwig." Gu Shengyin said, "Okay, Ludwig. Is there something wrong with my makeup today?" Ludwig smiled and said, "No, you're very beautiful today." Gu Shengyin asked, "Then why are you staring at me?" Ludwig smiled brightly. "It's because Ki is good looking. There's an old saying in Z country that a beauty is a feast for the eyes. I plan to give it a try and see if it's true." Gu Shengyin, okay, he was sure that Ludwig was making fun of him. But she couldn't get angry because of this. That would be too ungentlemanly. Gu Shengyin thought for a moment and said to Ludwig, "Ludwig, if you continue like this, you might not feel hungry, but the lady opposite you will be so embarrassed that she won't be able to eat." Ludwig blinked, his blue eyes full of sincerity. "Why?" Gu Shengyin gritted her teeth in her heart, but she still had a perfect smile on her face. "Because, being stared at by such a handsome man like you, no woman can concentrate." How come she never knew that Ludwig was so shameless? "Oh, then I know." Ludwig seemed to understand something. "Ki, you like my face," he said with certainty. Gu Shengyin had never seen such a shameless person. She smiled and gritted her teeth. Everyone loves beauty. Ludwig suddenly understood. He suddenly smiled brightly and said to Gu Shengyin, "So, Ki, let's go out." Gu Shengyin. "Wait. What kind of development is this?" Ludwig continued, "Look. You like my face, which means you have a good impression of me. And it just so happens that I like you very much. So let's go out." Gu Shengyin calmly interrupted him. "If I remember correctly, we've only met once. This is the second time we've met." "No, no, no." Ludwig refuted her very seriously. "In fact, this is the third time we've met. The first time we met was at the airport. You were with Miss Song." He looked at Gu Shengyin and said affectionately, "Miss Ruanke, I fell in love with you at first sight." Chapter 127. At the Tsinghua Fashion Week press conference. Country Z's Tsinghua City was known as the world's fashion capital. Every designer dreamed of attending Tsinghua Fashion Week. Similarly, Tsinghua Fashion Week was also one of the most popular places for supermodels. Gu Shengyin arrived at the destination early. Although the supermodels looked so glamorous on the runway, they were not so relaxed backstage. "Ollie, help me button up." "Zhang Qiao, your eye makeup is not done yet." Gu Shengyin only needed to walk one show and did not need to change clothes frequently. Moreover, Song Cici was not a famous designer. Her works were displayed in the backstage, so she did not need to be in a hurry. Gu Shengyin slowly walked through the crowd. A few familiar faces recognized her and were surprised, but they just nodded and smiled. They did not have the time to catch up. After walking out of the fitting room, Gu Shengyin walked towards the bathroom. "Host, be careful," the system suddenly said. Gu Shengyin was thinking about other things and did not react for a moment. Someone walked over in a hurry and did not notice Gu Shengyin at all. "Yes." Gu Shengyin groaned. There was a wall behind her. She was knocked back 2 steps and leaned against the wall to avoid the fate of falling. The other model also took a few steps back. Cecilia raised her head and glanced at Gu Shengyin. She confirmed that she had never seen this face before. At this time, the person who could appear here must be a model. However, she had never seen her before. Obviously, the other party was not a famous model. Cecilia looked at Gu Shengyin again. The latter's figure and face made her feel a sense of crisis. She raised her head reservedly and looked at Gu Shengyin. She preemptively said, "Don't you look in front of you when you walk? I will be representing Pol in the show soon. If I fall and affect my performance, can you bear the responsibility?" To be honest, Gu Shengyin hadn't experienced being questioned like this for a long time. no matter if it was her or Wan Kei's body. She glanced at the model and found her vaguely familiar. At this moment, the system spoke. Cecilia, Spanish, professional model. So it was her. She was supposed to be the model for Song Cici's fashion show. At this time, Cecilia was not yet the top supermodel she would be in the future. She was just a little famous. Gu Xingyin glanced at her and said, "If my memory serves me right, Miss Cecilia was the one who bumped into me." Cecilia was surprised that the other party knew her name. Soon after, she proudly thought that her reputation had spread far and wide. Thinking of this, she was in a very good mood. She didn't intend to trouble Gu Xingyin anymore. She rolled her eyes at her and impatiently walked past Gu Xingyin to leave. Originally, this matter should have ended like this. However, when Cecilia passed by Gu Xingyin, the former said a very clear sentence in Gu Xingyin's ear. "Bitch of Z country." Gu Xingyin's face suddenly turned cold. Her voice was extremely cold. "Stop." Cecilia originally intended to ignore her, but an inexplicable feeling from the other party made her stop. Wan Kei's height was about the same as Cecilia's, but Cecilia felt like she was a rabbit facing a cheetah when she saw Wan Kei's aura. This was the aura of a top supermodel. The other party was just an unknown model. How could she have such an aura? Cecilia was in a cold sweat. Chapter 128. Gu Xingyin looked at her coldly. "Miss Cecilia, please apologize to me for what you said just now." This was a public area. There were so many models backstage. It was impossible that no one had seen what had just happened. However, no one stepped forward. It was obvious that they were just watching. Wan Kei had a good temper, but it didn't mean that she didn't have a temper. If she let Cecilia go today, she would probably be ridiculed to death in tomorrow's news. Cecilia wanted to roll her eyes and arrogantly say, "Who do you think you are?" Or just leave. But when she met the other party's dark eyes, she couldn't help but feel afraid. She knew very well that she was completely suppressed by the other party. The longer this went on, the worse it would be for her. Cecilia knew this, but she couldn't apologize to such a woman. She didn't know where the courage came from. She suddenly rushed towards Gu Xingyin and pushed her hard. The system had already warned Gu Xingyin when it noticed that something was wrong with Cecilia. So this time, Gu Xingyin took a few steps back. She was ready to fall. Based on Cecilia's strength, she would definitely fall to the ground. However, Gu Xingyin, who was prepared by the system, could completely avoid the fall. But she didn't plan to avoid it. If she really fell down today, she could guarantee that Cecilia would be kicked out of Country Z with her tail between her legs the next day. Did she really think that she, Gu Xingyin, was so easy to take advantage of? But her plan couldn't keep up with the changes. A pair of arms caught her firmly. It was Ludwig. At the same time, Gu Xingyin smelled the familiar lotus fragrance on him. It was actually him. Gu Xingyin suddenly felt a little stuffy. She glared fiercely at Ludwig in a hidden corner. Ludwig thought that Gu Xingyin was still angry about what had happened. He touched his nose, but his hand didn't let go of Gu Xingyin's waist. Turning to Cecilia, who was stunned by this development, Ludwig's face instantly turned cold. "Do you have a problem with my partner?" Cecilia was really panicking this time. Who was Ludwig? She didn't know Wan Kei, but she definitely knew Ludwig. His Majesty the King of the supermodel world. Not only that, the Gardner family had been in Western Europe for hundreds of years. Whether it was the financial street or the fashion industry, they had a great influence. She almost didn't think about it. She bowed deeply to Gu Xingyin. "I'm sorry, miss. I apologize for my behavior just now." However, Gu Xingyin only glanced at Ludwig. "My hand hurts." Ludwig immediately tensed up. "Where? Let me see." He didn't even look at Cecilia, who was standing there with a pale face. He helped Gu Xingyin to a lounge. Gu Xingyin knew that this was a private lounge as soon as she entered. She glanced at Ludwig and had a new estimation of his influence. A person who could have an independent lounge at Jianghu Fashion Week was definitely not as simple as a supermodel. It seemed that every time her lover was reincarnated, he was treated better than her, the protagonist. Gu Xingyin was deep in thought. At this time, the system chose to play dead. Chapter 129. Where are you hurt? Ludwig's words interrupted her thoughts. Gu Xingyin just didn't want to talk to Cecilia, so she made up a random excuse. But when he asked, she really did feel a dull pain in her right elbow. She raised her arm, and sure enough, her elbow was bruised. Ruan Kai's skin was very white and delicate. The bruise looked very scary. Sure enough, Ludwig's face fell. In his heart, Cecilia's modeling career had been sentenced to death. But he didn't say anything. He just turned around and took a bottle of medicine, carefully applying it on Gu Xingyin. Be gentle, it hurts. Gu Xingyin glared at him. Knowing that he was her lover, Gu Xingyin wasn't so polite to him. Ludwig was very happy. He always felt that the woman in front of him was wearing a mask when she treated him. Now, she was the real her. A cool feeling came from the place where the medicine was applied, effectively relieving the pain. Looking at Gu Xingyin's relaxed expression, Ludwig suddenly leaned forward and asked, "You're not angry anymore, right? Back to 2 days ago." Ludwig looked at Gu Xingyin and said seriously, "Don't worry. Miss Ruanke, I fell in love with you at first sight." Gu Xingyin was expressionless. All love at first sight is just hooliganism. Ludwig, ? Gu Xingyin, do you think I'm beautiful? Ludwig didn't understand and nodded. Gu Xingyin, do you have a good impression of me when you see me? Ludwig still didn't understand and nodded again. Gu Xingyin spread her hands. See, your so-called love at first sight is just because of my face. Ludwig felt that something was wrong, but he didn't know how to refute. At this moment, Gu Xingyin's eyes suddenly lit up as she looked in a certain direction. Do you think that Persian cat is pretty? Ludwig didn't like these little things, but seeing that Gu Xingyin liked them so much, he nodded. Gu Xingyin turned her head and smiled brightly. Then go and buy it. Fall in love with it at first sight. After he finished speaking, he picked up his bag and left in one go. The time reversal was complete. Gu Xingyin saw the nervousness hidden deep in the man's eyes. She laughed inwardly and shook her head. Ludwig breathed a sigh of relief. He looked at Gu Xingyin again. What about my confession? Westerners were just that straightforward. Although Gu Xingyin knew that he was her lover, she did not intend to let him go so easily. Ludwig, I don't think we're suitable. She sighed. The man was clearly hurt. Why? Gu Xingyin's answer was simple. I don't have any feelings for you. Ludwig did not give up. As far as I know, you don't have a lover. Since that's the case, why won't you give me a chance? Gu Xingyin was unmoved. Ludwig, some things can't be forced. Feelings aren't something you can have just because you want to. She looked at the man with a sincere gaze. Look, you're so handsome and rich. There are so many girls who like you, and there are many who are more outstanding than me. Why don't you consider them? The system, who had been secretly watching, thought, the spicy host is getting worse and worse. I feel sorry for Ludwig. Ludwig suddenly looked at Gu Xingyin and smiled. You're right. Feelings can't be forced. There are so many girls, but I only have feelings for you. He did not give Gu Xingyin time to react. He leaned over and covered her mouth. After the kiss, he looked at the dizzy Gu Xingyin. Now, do you have feelings for me? Chapter 130. Mei Luan sat in the guest seat and frowned at the models on the stage. To be honest, the quality of the Jianghu Fashion Week was not bad, but there were no eye-catching works. The old luxury brands continued with their usual style, and there were no breakthroughs or innovations. He was a professional reviewer, but this time, he didn't have the desire to write. He thought that this would be the end of the fashion week. At most, He would look forward to the last design until he saw the female model appear. The crowd suddenly quieted down, and then there was the sound of shutters. Gu Shengyin walked out in her ice domain. Under the stage lights, she really looked like the Ice Queen who had descended from the mysterious ice goddess temple. She wore a crown woven from snow and held a scepter carved from ice. Step by step, she walked into the human world. From far to near, it was like a dream. Her clothes were very cold and luxurious, but she was even colder and more noble. It seemed that the whole venue was cold because of her appearance. It was the end of summer, but some people could not help but wrap their arms around her. Mei Luan did not even want to blink. He was afraid of missing any details. When Gu Shengyin turned around and disappeared behind the scenes, he could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. He knew who the model was, Ruan Kui, the favorite of the modeling industry 4 years ago. Later, she turned to film and television. He did not expect that after 4 years, she would appear on the runway again. Mei Luan thought that he knew what to write for this week's review. Mei Luan, who was already satisfied, did not know that there was a bigger surprise waiting for him. This time, the shutters were pressed more urgently, as if the photographers could not wait to use up all the film in a few seconds. There was only one person who could be so favored by them, Ludwig Gardner. Mei Luan felt that his eyes were not enough. It was obvious that Ludwig's clothes were the same as Ruan Kui's, but they were dressed in different styles. Ruan Kui was the empress, so she was arrogant, cold, disdainful, and insufferably noble. On the other hand, Ludwig was a knight. He was handsome, loyal, and powerful. He only had one person in his eyes. The atmosphere at the scene had reached a climax, especially for the media. They had already written the headlines for tomorrow. Melon knew that there was still a big show waiting for him. Sure enough, the empress, who had left the stage earlier, walked up to the stage with her knight. There was no doubt that Ludwig was the #1 male supermodel. When he fully unleashed his aura, he could almost suppress most people. Today, everyone could see that Ludwig was in his best condition. But even so, Gu Shengyin, who stood beside him, was not inferior at all. No one could ignore her standing beside Ludwig. This was Her Majesty. The photographers were suddenly glad that they had not used up all their film. Otherwise, they would have nowhere to cry. At this moment, Ludwig suddenly made an unexpected move. When he walked to the front of the stage, he suddenly turned around, knelt on one knee, took Gu Shengyin's hand, and kissed it gently. "Your knight will always be loyal to you, Your Majesty the Empress." This scene had already made many people scream in a low voice. Her Majesty lowered her head, looked at the knight, and smiled slightly. "I allow you to offer your loyalty, my knight. You belong to me only." Chapter 131. The model who was supposed to be in the limelight had been ignored. Everyone's attention was on Gu Shengyin and Ludwig. Of course, a small number of people from another field paid attention to the designer of the outfit. The forum had exploded. This is the 4th replay. Her Majesty the Queen is so beautiful. Oh my God. Her Majesty the Queen's disdainful gaze. Please accept my kneel. Her Majesty the Queen, I want to carry your shoes. As a man, I have to admit that when Her Majesty the Queen glanced at me, I was shamefully hard. 120th comment. Be careful not to get beaten to death. 120th comment. You have to be careful. I have always been a staunch supporter of Fang Ku. No matter what happened, my beliefs never wavered. However, after watching this video, my heart has become a member of the Double Kings faction. I have let down the organization. Upstairs, I forgive you because I have also become a member of the Double Kings faction. Goodbye, I will remain a member of the Double Kings faction for 10,000 years. Fang Ku faction is here. If you are not convinced, come and fight. Her Majesty the Queen only walked a show. Don't forget that her main business is now the big screen. Long live our Fang Ku faction. It wasn't just the forum. Ruan Kui's Weibo was also exploding. After leaving the stage, Ludwig found Gu Shengyin. The road outside is blocked by reporters and fans. Your agent is in front to deal with them. Come with me. Ludwig pulled Gu Xingyin into an inconspicuous car. When the two of them passed by, they happened to see a man with a figure similar to Gu Xingyin's, wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap. He was hurriedly moving under Chen Rong's cover, and he was soon drowned out by a swarm of reporters. After leaving, they looked at each other and smiled. At this time, Gu Xingyin received a call from Sister Chen. Hey, Ki, your fans are crazy. Don't go out for a few days. If you are blocked, it will be difficult to get away. All the media were looking for them. They wanted to get first-hand information. After hanging up, Ludwig raised his eyebrows. Did your agent ask you to go back? Gu Xingyin nodded. Although Ludwig was a little disappointed, he understood. He drove to Gu Xingyin's apartment. When he left, he suddenly leaned over and kissed Gu Xingyin's face. Although you haven't accepted me yet, I won't give up. He pointed at his chest. There's only room for you in here. Pausing for a moment, he continued domineeringly, then, you can only have me in your heart. He thought of those couples he saw on the forum and said hatefully, those Fang Ming, Zhang Qiao, Xia, and so on, you are not allowed to be tempted by them. Gu Xingyin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This man, even if he didn't have those reincarnation memories, his possessiveness towards her was always so strong. Gu Xingyin rested comfortably at home for almost a week. As expected, almost half of the fashion magazines published her and Ludwig's catwalk photos. All the magazines were sold out, and the printers couldn't stop smiling. Especially the scene of Ludwig kneeling on one knee. She was called, the only woman who can conquer His Majesty, by the media. At the same time, invitations from major brands and interviews from various fashion magazines were all rejected by Chen Rong. In the end, the annoyed Chen Rong asked for Gu Xingyin's permission and released a statement in the name of Ruan Qi. She said that this runway show was just for a friend and that she had no intention of returning to the fashion industry. The craze slowly subsided. Chapter 132. Tsinghua Film City. As the largest film and television base in the country, there were fans waiting for their idol's schedule here almost every day. Ming Shujia wore sunglasses and walked over slowly with her assistant. Many people knew she was a celebrity based on her outfit. They looked at her with interest, but when they realized they didn't know her, they turned back out of boredom. Ming Shujia bit her lips in embarrassment. She comforted herself, one day, I won't be like this anymore. It's Ruan Qi. Qi, I love you. When she was about to enter, she heard many people exclaiming in low voices. She stopped in her tracks, turned around, and saw an extremely tall woman get out of the nanny van. The fans who had ignored her before now surrounded her as if they had won the lottery one by one. Qi, please take a picture with me. I brought you a gift. Your Majesty, I've been waiting here for more than 10 days since I heard you were going to shoot a movie. Gu Xingyin was familiar with this situation. She patiently took a picture with the fans. As for the gifts, Chen Rong would choose which ones she should accept and which she shouldn't. Gu Xingyin felt someone's gaze on her. She looked over and saw a figure leaving. Ming Shujia. The system told her before, Ming Shujia got a supporting role in the divinity. It seemed that she was here to prepare for the shoot. Gu Xingyin smiled. She knew that Ming Shujia was a narrow-minded person who thought highly of herself. She always felt that she wasn't famous enough because she hadn't met a director who appreciated her. For people like Ruan Qi, she was envious of their natural good looks. On the other hand, she despised them for relying on their looks to make a living. Unfortunately, her current role was something she had exchanged for with her own body. She didn't know where her sense of superiority came from. When Gu Xingyin came to the set, almost all the actors stood up. Even Li Fengyun greeted her with a smile. An actress like Ruan Qi had good looks, excellent acting skills, and a high status. Most importantly, she didn't put on airs. Which director wouldn't like such an easygoing actress? Ming Shujia looked at those popular artists smiling in front of Ruan Qi. She looked at director Li and Ruan Qi, who had been talking and laughing since she came in. She looked at the group of people accompanying Wan Kei's assistant. The stars revolved around the moon. Ever since he came to this body, what was it that he had been trying so hard to obtain? Wasn't it all because of this status and the sense of superiority of being the moon surrounded by the stars? Gu Xingyin saw Ming Shujia walk up to her with a shy smile. "Hello, Sister Kei. I'm Ming Shujia, a newcomer. Nice to meet you." Even if she, Ming Shujia, had been struggling in the entertainment industry for so long, she was just an 18th-tier celebrity. In front of Wan Kei, wasn't she just a newcomer? Gu Xingyin glanced at her. He had to admit that Ming Shujia's temperament was just like her name, clear, sweet, innocent, and harmless. Just by looking at her appearance, no one would think that she would force herself to accompany a man who was 1 or 2 rounds older than her in order to climb up the social ladder. Sure enough, one couldn't judge a book by its cover. Gu Xingyin returned her smile. She knew that Ming Shujia had put a lot of effort into this movie. She hoped that she could rely on this movie to make a comeback. In fact, she had done it in the original plot. However, the one acting with her now was Gu Xingyin. Ming Shujia wanted to finish this movie so smoothly, but it still depended on whether Gu Xingyin agreed. Chapter 133. Divinity told the story of the primordial era, where humans, demons, goblins, and other races fought for luck and resources. They fought and killed each other, causing the world to be filled with misery. That era was treacherous, and everyone had strong spiritual power. They killed without restraint, angering the laws and even sending down heavenly punishment as a warning. However, the races that were in a killing frenzy couldn't stop. If they continued, all the races would disappear under the heavenly punishment. In the end, the queen of the goblins, Shen Yin, used the goblin's treasure, the star compass, as a guide and sacrificed herself to cast a curse, dissipating the spiritual power of the humans, robbing the intelligence of the goblins, and banishing the demons to the other side of the endless abyss. As for the goblins, they lost the right to set foot on this land forever. They built a beautiful city in the 9 heavens, but could only look at their homeland with melancholy. Gu Xingyin was playing the role of the queen of the goblins, Shen Yin. Ming Shujia was playing the role of the spirit of the star compass, Shen Yin's magical weapon. As a magical weapon with its own consciousness, the star compass was arrogant and naive. In the entire continent, it only obeyed the orders of its master, the queen of the goblins, Shen Yin. This role wasn't easy to play. Director Li originally wanted to find a popular actress with better acting skills to play this role, but Ming Shujia's financial backer had invested a large sum of money in the crew, so he agreed to let her play this role. However, if Ming Shujia's acting skills were really bad, Director Li wouldn't mind changing the role again. The whole morning's filming went smoothly. At noon, after everyone had lunch, they rested for a while and started filming again. Ming Shujia was a little nervous. In the afternoon, there was a scene between the star compass and the queen. "Xing, you went to tease your people again?" Gu Xingyin's face was dignified. Although there was a hint of reproach in her tone, there was also a hint of doting as she looked at the spirit of the star compass. "Those guys are all so cowardly." Ming Shujia was suddenly at a loss for words. She clearly remembered her lines and this scene wasn't difficult, but for some reason, under Gu Xingyin's calm gaze, she couldn't say anything. "Cut. Again." Director Li frowned and looked at Ming Shujia, but he didn't say anything. "They all know that you're the artifact spirit of a divine artifact, so they deliberately let you have your way. You are already several tens of thousands of years old, why are you still so mischievous?" Ming Shujia said subconsciously, "Humph. Who asked them to yield? If I were to make a move, they would all fall one by one." "Cut. Ming Shujia, what about your feelings? I'm not asking you to read your lines. You're acting. Your expression makes me feel like you're reading the text." Director Li was a little angry. This scene actually didn't require much acting skills. If Ming Shujia couldn't even pass this, there was no need to talk about the rest of the scenes. "It's not like this. It shouldn't be like this." Ming Shujia was very confused. She knew that her level was not limited to this. When she was at home, she had repeatedly practiced in front of the mirror countless times. There was no such thing as forgetting her lines or blanking out. "I'm sorry, Director Li. I'll be careful." She sincerely apologized to Director Li, then smiled apologetically at Gu Xingyin. "Sister Kei, I'll have to trouble you." Gu Xingyin smiled indifferently. "Prepare well first. Don't be impatient." Ming Shujia took a deep breath. Finally, this scene was over. She subconsciously looked at Gu Xingyin. The other party just smiled at her. Chapter 134. "Host, you're so bad," the system said to Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin took a bottle of water from the assistant and slowly took a sip. From the corner of her eye, she saw Ming Shujia reading the script. The system was speechless. Gu Xingyin was suppressing Ming Shujia. Ming Shujia's acting skills were not bad, but she was still far from Gu Xingyin's ability. If Gu Xingyin really wanted to suppress her, she could definitely make her unable to say a word. However, that would be too obvious. Gu Xingyin only used a little trick to maintain a level where Director Li couldn't see through it, and Ming Shujia was clearly affected. Probably because Ruan Kei's reputation was too good and there had never been any rumors of her suppressing a newcomer, no one suspected her. Even Ming Shujia herself put the blame on herself. It was also Gu Xingyin's intention to film the last scene. If she kept suppressing Ming Shujia, with Director Li's temper, it was very likely that he would directly replace her. Although she had achieved her goal, wouldn't it be a lot less fun? She looked at Ming Shujia, who was frowning. It made her feel unbearable pain, but at the same time, she still had a glimmer of hope. She was like a drowning person holding onto a piece of driftwood. In the end, it was useless to let her find out. Even if she held onto the piece of driftwood, it was a vast ocean with few people. Even if she didn't drown, she would die of thirst or starvation. There was no chance of survival. This way, when she finally found out, she would be even more desperate and in pain. "Ming Shujia, aren't you very good at trampling people under your feet and never letting them turn over? Then let's let you have a taste of this feeling as well." The system, which was familiar with the host's thoughts, silently lit a candle for Ming Shujia. When they were done, Gu Xingyin, who came out of the fitting room, heard a few staff members whispering. "I wonder what he's here for. Oh my God, he's so handsome up close." She already had a guess in her heart. Sure enough, when he walked out, he saw a tall man standing beside Director Li, talking to him in a low voice. "Kai." Ludwig saw her and revealed a handsome smile. Gu Xingyin heard the sound of saliva being swallowed behind her. She secretly glared at the man who was attracting bees and butterflies. She walked over and asked in surprise, "Director Li and Ludwig know each other?" Ludwig smiled and said, "I'm a fan of Director Li's films. I have all of Director Li's films in my collection." "What are you doing here?" Gu Xingyin asked. "Firstly, I heard that Director Li is filming here, so I came over to meet my idol," Ludwig said in all seriousness. "Secondly." Ludwig glanced at her. "I thought you knew." Director Li looked at the two of them with a smile and instantly understood what Ludwig meant. He looked at Gu Xingyin and teased, "I've never heard of you having a close relationship with a man. So it's because you're hiding it too well?" Gu Xingyin hurriedly said, "Director Li, don't misunderstand. It's not what you think it is." Ludwig didn't care. "Kai is right. We're just friends for now. But I'm pursuing her. If our relationship changes one day, I'll definitely thank you." Gu Xingyin was too lazy to talk nonsense with him and walked away. Ludwig hurriedly said goodbye to Director Li and chased after her. Chapter 135. The next day, the news of Ruan Kei and supermodel Ludovic's relationship hit the headlines. However, neither of them had any intention of answering this question, and the media couldn't find them. "Host, when do you plan to accept Ludovic's pursuit?" the system asked curiously. Gu Xingyin was painting her nails. She glanced at the system and said, "That depends on my mood." The system didn't understand. The host clearly liked her lover. Why didn't she get together with him when she already knew his identity? Gu Shengyin didn't want to explain to the system what it meant to be Sundra. As the treasure of the Protoss, you should know that the star compass is related to the fate of the Protoss. If it falls into the hands of others, the consequences will be severe. Divine Sound Queen's face was frosty. She slammed her hand on the table and stood up, looking sternly at Xing Luo's weapon spirit in front of her. In this scene, Xing Luo's weapon spirit was about to sneak out of the Protoss forbidden area to play, but was discovered by Divine Sound Queen and enraged. Ming Shujia knew that she should refute, but Gu Shengyin was in a rage, and she couldn't say a word. Cut. Director Li didn't look at Ming Shujia kindly. Gu Shengyin's aura, expression, and body language were all on point. He almost couldn't help but cheer. Who knew that when it came to Ming Shujia, it would be cut? Anyone would be furious. Again. As the treasure of the Protoss, you should know that the star compass is related to the fate of the Protoss. If it falls into the hands of others, the consequences will be severe. I. Ming Shujia was so anxious that she was about to cry, but she really couldn't say anything. This time, before Director Li got angry, she took the initiative to apologize. Director Li, please give me another chance. Her tone was very humble. She knew that if her performance displeased the director, with his temper, it was very likely that he would replace her. Director Li gave her a chance, but Ming Shujia didn't take it. Cut. This scene will be paused for now. Kei, you go and rest. Zhang Qiao, Su Ruyun, you two get ready for the next scene. Director Li pointed at the two actors standing on the other side. He turned to Ming Shujia and said, think about the script for me for the next 2 days. 2 days later, I'll let you try again. If you can't do it, you don't have to come again. Ming Shujia bit her lips and nodded. She walked over to Gu Shengyin and said, Sister Qi, can I trouble you to help me practice my acting for the next 2 days? As soon as she said that, the actors who were preparing next to her looked over in disbelief. Who did Ming Shujia think she was? She actually dared to ask the award-winning Best Actress to practice with her? Gu Shengyin was also surprised. It seemed that Ming Shujia really had nowhere to go. But, helping a small-time actress rehearse? Ruan Kei wasn't that cheap, and she wasn't prepared to raise Ming Shujia's value like that. I'm really sorry. I have scenes for the next 2 days, and I have a job to do tomorrow afternoon. I'm afraid I don't have time. Gu Shengyin smiled very politely, and her rejection was also very swift. After Gu Shengyin got up and left, someone next to her sneered, some people, just because they found a sugar daddy, they really think they have a lot of face? You want the award-winning Best Actress to practice with you? Do you know how much Sister Qi is worth? The fact that Ming Shujia got in through the back door wasn't a secret in the crew. Although she was low-key and worked hard during this time, a few actors still couldn't stand her. Ming Shujia lowered her head, and her nails dug into her palms, letting the piercing pain stimulate her emotions. These people, looking down on me, one day, I'll make you regret it. Chapter 136. When Gu Shengyin saw Ming Shujia again, she was obviously shocked. The Ming Shujia in front of her was pale, and even her makeup couldn't hide her haggard expression. It seemed that she hadn't been living comfortably for the past 2 days. After all, she had paid such a high price to get the role. If it was replaced because of her, she wouldn't be able to accept it. How pitiful. Gu Shengyin sighed. The system felt a sense of crisis. It was just about to remind the host not to be fooled by Ming Shujia's appearance when Gu Shengyin continued. I really want to see her even more pitiful. Gu Shengyin sighed. System, it was obvious that Ming Shujia had worked very hard for the past 2 days, but it was useless. Cut. Director Li frowned and called for a stop. He said to Ming Shujia, I've already made myself clear 2 days ago. You can go now. Don't come back tomorrow. Ming Shujia's face was pale. She was almost crying as she begged Director Li to give her another chance. However, Director Li was obviously used to such situations. He wasn't moved at all. He just asked the stage supervisor to take her away. No one spoke up to plead for her. Ming Shujia looked at everyone present one by one. One day, there would be someone like this. These people would kneel at her feet and beg her in tears like today. If Gu Xingyi knew what she was thinking, she would definitely ask, "Where did you get your confidence from?" Ming Shujia's role was eventually taken over by a rather famous actress with solid acting skills. There weren't any more mistakes, and Director Li's expression relaxed. In the following days, Gu Xingyin ran between the set and home every day. Other than Ludwig, who persistently called her every day to harass her, she was so busy that she didn't have time to talk to anyone else. Until the movie was finished. It's finally over. Su Ruyun, who was in the same crew, let out a long sigh of relief. Everyone was deeply moved. The movie, Divinity, involved a lot of battle scenes. Not only did the actors have to hang from wires, but there were also many scenes where they had to roll around in the water and on the ground. Director Li also revealed a smile. Today is the Cloud Sky Hotel. It's my treat. Oh. Director Li is indeed generous. The next night, the entire crew arrived at the Cloud Sky Hotel. Cheers. I wish you all the best at the box office. One by one, the drunkards were brought home by their respective managers. Gu Xingyin slept for several days before she felt that she was finally alive again. Of course, she was mainly shocked by a piece of news. The young master of Exploding Star Entertainment has a new lover. Star Entertainment's young master Yu Xiang Xinhuan knows about Xu Jia's past. Gu Xingyin commented as she watched, "This woman, Ming Shujia, is really an unkillable cockroach." Her past has already been exposed, yet she still managed to hook up with the young master of Star Entertainment. Whether it was Yu Xiang who didn't care about her past or Ming Shujia who made Yu Xiang believe that those reports were false, it proved that this woman had extraordinary means. Sure enough, Yuan Kai saw Ming Shujia in the company the next day. Compared to a few days ago, Ming Shujia's entire temperament was different. Gu Xingyin glanced at her. She was dressed from head to toe in big brands, and the makeup on her face was exquisite and appropriate. Where was the haggard look from before? Chapter 137. Sister K. Ming Shujia took the initiative to greet Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin smiled faintly at her. Ming Shujia pretended to caress the hair on her right cheek carelessly. When she moved, the exquisite lady's watch on her wrist was revealed. It was a limited edition lady's watch from CM, worth 7 figures. Gu Xingyin followed her wishes and her gaze paused on the watch. Ming Shujia smiled happily. Sister K, have you seen this watch before? Gu Xingyin revealed a perfect smile. Before I entered the film industry, I was CM's global spokesperson. Now, I still have many custom-made watches at home. Ming Shujia's face suddenly turned ugly. She originally wanted to show off, but she didn't expect to be slapped in the face. I still have something to do, Sister K. I'll leave first. She asked for a snub, so of course, she didn't want to stay here. Chen Rong curled her lips in disdain at Gu Xingyin. This Ming Shujia hasn't gained a firm foothold yet, but she can't wait to show off. She won't be able to achieve great things. Gu Xingyin didn't think so. In the original plot, Ming Shujia wasn't like this. Now, perhaps because she had suffered too many blows, she couldn't wait to prove herself. Let's go. Ming Shujia walked out of the door and saw Yu Xiang waiting at the side. Yu Xiang was a famous playboy in the entertainment industry. As the young master of Star Entertainment, at least half of the female artists in Star Entertainment had been involved in scandals with him. Of course, Yu Xiang was quite a gentleman. He paid attention to mutual consent. If they were really unwilling, he would never force them. Xiang. Ming Shujia called out sweetly. But he didn't hug her like he usually did. Xiang, what's wrong? Ming Shujia was puzzled. You went to find Wanqi today? Yu Xiang looked at her with an unfathomable expression. He was undoubtedly good-looking. He was the kind of handsome that showed off his abilities. When he smiled, he had a mischievous look that was very popular with girls. But at this moment, when his face darkened, it was somewhat frightening. Ming Shujia revealed a sweet smile. It's just that I received Sister K's care on the set before, so I went to say hello. Yu Xiang sneered, Ming Shujia, don't show off your little tricks in front of me. Who is Ruan K? Even I have to be polite to her. You're just a woman who relied on me to gain a foothold in star entertainment, so what right do you have to show off in front of her? I'm warning you, I don't care how you want to play, but remember, don't have any ideas about her. Ming Shujia's face was pale. After a while, she gave an ugly smile. I know. Seeing her like this, Yu Xiang chuckled again. That's right. If you're obedient, I'll naturally give you what you want. Ming Shujia obediently leaned into his arms, hiding her resentful gaze in his arms. The next day, Gu Shengyin had nothing to do, so she turned off the alarm and fell asleep. Until the sound of the doorbell woke her up. Who is it? She didn't tidy up, so there weren't many people who knew that she lived in this apartment. The door opened, revealing Ludwig's handsome face. Ludwig looked at the woman in front of him with messy hair and sleepy eyes. He only felt that she was indescribably cute. What's the matter? Gu Shengyin closed the door and poured a glass of water for Ludwig. I'm leaving Country Z. Ludwig held the glass and looked at her. Chapter 138. Gu Shengyin immediately woke up from his sleepiness. She glanced at Ludwig and calmly said, I'll go wash up first. Soon, she walked out and the two of them sat face to face. Kay, you know how I feel about you. Ludwig looked at her seriously. I hope you can accept me. Gu Shengyin glanced at him. Indeed, Ludwig had done enough in the past 6 months. Gu Shengyin tilted her head and looked at him. Then, you said you like me. What kind of like is it? Ludwig looked at Gu Shengyin in disbelief. What did she mean? Of course it's like I want to marry you and spend the rest of my life with you. No, it's love. I love you. Ludwig said affectionately. Gu Shengyin looked at him with some disdain. I can't see your sincerity. Ludwig was a little anxious. No, Kay, I swear, my heart is absolutely loyal to you. I'm not afraid of being laughed at by you, but before you, I've never been moved by any woman, and I don't know how to pursue a girl. Maybe I'm not good enough, but you have to believe in my feelings for you. Gu Shengyin quietly listened to him and didn't say anything. Ludwig felt that he had never been so nervous. He stared at Gu Shengyin, hoping that she would open her mouth to reply to his words, but he was afraid to hear a heartless rejection from those red lips. Gu Shengyin saw that he had been teased enough and finally decided to show mercy and let him go. She frowned in confusion. Is that so? But I heard that when people confess, they have to kneel on one knee and give the ring. Ludwig spent 2 seconds laughing at the meaning behind Gu Shengyin's words. Then, he stood up almost ecstatically, hugged Gu Shengyin and kissed her. Wait here, I'll ask them to send the ring over in the afternoon. For the rest of the day, Ludwig stayed in Gu Shengyin's apartment. The two of them sat together quietly, occasionally chatting and kissing. When the doorbell rang, Ludwig was wearing an apron and making dinner for Gu Shengyin. Gu Shengyin got up to open the door. It was an unknown blonde foreigner with closed eyes. Who are you? Gu Shengyin asked cautiously. Ludwig walked out. Don't worry, I asked him to come over. Gu Shengyin noticed that the man's expression seemed to twist when he saw Ludwig wearing an apron. The man handed a box to Ludwig. The two of them whispered a few words, and the foreign man left. Kai, go to the bedroom and stay there. Come out in 10 minutes, Ludwig said to her. Having guessed what the man was going to do, Gu Shengyin obediently walked into the bedroom. Until Ludwig called for her to come out. There was an exquisite dinner on the table, but what attracted Gu Shengyin was the man standing at the table. He held a bouquet of delicate roses in his arms and looked at her affectionately. Because of time constraints, I can't give you a perfect proposal. Ludwig was obviously a little guilty. But I can't wait any longer, Kai. He knelt down on one knee and slowly extended a hand to Gu Xingyin. In his hand, there was a simple jewelry box. Inside, there was a gorgeous emerald ring that shone brightly. Chapter 139. So, the rings of the Gardner family heirs will be divided into a pair. Ludwig looked at Gu Xingyin. Kai, are you willing to be the future mistress of the Gardner family? Gu Xingyin's answer was to extend his hand with a smile. Ludwig excitedly put it on for her. Then, he stood up and kissed her fiercely. Both of them were a little out of breath. Ludwig hugged Gu Xingyin and pressed his forehead against hers. I know that today's proposal is really hard on you. Kai, just you wait. I will definitely give you the grandest wedding. Gu Xingyin looked at him and smiled. You should know that I don't care about this. But I care. Ludwig looked at her seriously. In my heart, you deserve the best. Gu Xingyin took a picture of the food with her phone and posted it on Weibo. In the picture, there was a pair of hands clasped together with a sentence, "Love dinner, please bless us." Smile, of course, she didn't take the picture of the ring. She wasn't afraid of publicizing their relationship, but Ludwig stopped her. Wait a moment. When I go back this time, I will start preparing for our wedding. Give me a month. After a month, I will come to Z country and announce our marriage with you. I don't want anyone to question our relationship. Gu Xingyin chose to believe him and was a little touched. This man was really trying his best to give her the best care. Ruan Kai's Weibo immediately exploded. Oh my god, I was caught off guard. I'm full of dog food. Is today April Fool's Day? Your Majesty, who is that man? Who is that man? Although the goddess is in love and not with me, I still wish her the best. Although the goddess is in love and not with me, I still wish her the best. Although the goddess is in love and not with me, I still wish her the best. I just want to know who that lucky man is. Ah. Upstairs, I want to know too. Oh. Gu Xingyin soon received a call from Chenrong. You two are together. Chenrong's voice was very certain. She had always known that Ludwig was pursuing Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin gave her an affirmative answer. Chenrong took a deep breath. Fortunately, she was prepared for this and was not caught off guard. In less than an hour, the news of movie queen Ruan Kai announces her relationship became the trending topic. Almost everyone was guessing who the owner of the hand that was intertwined with Ruan Kai's was. Fan guesses included Fang Ming, Zhang Qiao, and the others who had been a couple with her before. Ludwig was also guessed by netizens, but everyone was just guessing casually. After Gu Xingyin was severely punished by a jealous man, she had no choice but to post another Weibo, everyone, don't make wild guesses. He's not from the entertainment industry. When the time is right, I'll tell everyone. She was trying to change the meaning of her words. She was referring to someone who was not in the entertainment industry. When people read her words, they would subconsciously replace it with the word entertainment industry. This way, it would be even more difficult to guess who the man was. Ludwig left after accompanying her for dinner. He had returned to the country this time to deal with something, so he had to leave the next day. On the 20th day of Ludwig's departure from Z country, Divinity began screening. It was like an unstoppable hurricane. Divinity quickly occupied everyone's attention with an unstoppable momentum and even swept the world. Chapter 140. At the celebration banquet for Divinity. In fact, even director Li Fengyun didn't expect that the Divinity would be so popular. The top management of Star Entertainment came. As the biggest investor of this movie, Star Entertainment was undoubtedly the biggest winner. Gu Xingyin wasn't bad either. Not to mention how high her salary was. In the original agreement, she had a 5% share of the box office. It was estimated that she would get 9 figures. Moreover, as the first female lead of A Divinity, and the soul of the whole movie, she almost stole everyone's limelight today. Ming Shujia also appeared at this banquet. But her identity was Yu Xiang's female companion. With her status, it was not her turn to be at this kind of occasion. Gu Xingyin shuttled among the major investors, smiling like a flower and clinking glasses with people. Ming Shujia saw the investor who introduced her to the crew of divinity. He was smiling kindly, holding a glass of champagne and raising his glass to Gu Xingyin. Miss Ruan is about the same age as my daughter. She is still a little girl who only cares about all kinds of famous brands. Miss Ruan has already made such a big career. She is really young and promising. Gu Xingyin politely clinked glasses with him. Miss Yuan is naive and romantic. Mr. Yuan is lucky. His words made everyone laugh heartily. The businessman surnamed Yuan turned his head and saw Ming Shujia. He seemed surprised. Looking at Yu Xiang beside her, he showed a meaningful smile. Ming Shujia pretended not to see it. She looked at Gu Xingyin, who was graceful and decent in the crowd. They were the same age, but she was already deep in the mud, dealing with all kinds of men just to give herself a chance to stand out. But what about Ruan Ke? Even if she stayed at home and did nothing, there would be a lot of big productions that others couldn't even imagine. They would invite her. Whether she participated or not depended on her mood. She accompanied the men she didn't like and pretended to be polite, but Ruan Ke could show her love so generously. Why? She finally had a chance to start over. Did she come to Ming Shujia's body to compare herself to others' glory and see her misery? Yu Xiang saw her eyes on Ruan Ke and pulled her aside. What are you thinking? Don't think you can hide it well. The jealousy in your eyes is about to burst out. He scoffed and warned her, let me tell you, there are many people in the entertainment industry who are jealous of Ruan Ke. But until now, no one has been able to surpass her. The two of you are not from the same world to begin with. It's best that you put away your petty thoughts. After that, he ignored her and walked toward an investor. Ke. Gu Xingyin felt a little dizzy. She had drunk a little too much tonight. Hearing this voice, she frowned without batting an eyelid. Zhou Chuanqing, the scumbag in the original plot who colluded with Ming Shujia and set her up to marry Ruan Ke but didn't cherish her. Of course, at this moment, he was still the rich man who was chasing after Gu Xingyin. Mr. Zhou, we're not that close. Gu Xingyin corrected him. Please call me Miss Ruan. Zhou Chuanqing felt very defeated. He thought that he was handsome and rich, and he had always been successful in love. The first time he saw Ruan Ke, he was deeply attracted by this woman's special temperament. However, it had been nearly a year. No matter how he tried to please her, this woman still didn't give him any face. Chapter 141. Because Gu Xingyin did not cooperate, there was not much to talk about between them. Gu Xingyin turned to leave, but because of dizziness, her steps were unsteady and she accidentally stepped on the hem of her skirt. Be careful. Zhou Chuanqing certainly would not let go of this opportunity and hugged her tightly. Gu Xingyin struggled out of his arms at the same time as she stood up. Thank you, Mr. Zhou. Yan Biyao nodded and turned to leave. Zhou Chuanqing was left alone in the same place, and there seemed to be a lingering fragrance between his breaths. Gu Xingyin did not take this matter to heart. However, when she saw the report the next day, she knew that she had been defamed. A set of photos of herself and Zhou Chuanqing was posted online. The first one was the scene where she almost fell and was hugged by him yesterday. The angle of the photo was cleverly chosen. People who did not know the truth would think that the two of them were hugging each other affectionately. There were more than 10 photos following one after another, all of which were pictures of Ruan Ke and Zhou Chuanqing together. Gu Xingyin looked at the photos and wanted to praise the photographer's skills. Obviously, there was nothing ambiguous in the photos, but with the combination of the photos and a very suggestive article, it was as if Gu Xingyin and Zhou Chuanqing had been intimate for a long time. The man behind movie queen Ruan Ke, the truth. Ruan Ke and young master Zhou have been in a secret relationship for many years. Dig up Ruan Ke's love history. Gu Xingyin was a little confused. What was this person's purpose? Just to spread a rumor about her? Chen Rong obviously did not guess the other party's purpose. Of course, she knew that Gu Xingyin and Zhou Chuanqing had nothing to do with each other. If there was anything, it was just the man's unrequited love. She even called Gu Xingyin to comfort her. Don't worry, this kind of groundless report won't cause any trouble. However, just as the public relations of Star Entertainment released a statement saying that this was a false story, new revelations appeared on the internet. Ruan Ke you don't know about. Big news. Just the title of the post was enough to attract people's attention. The original poster used the news about Ruan Ke and Zhou Chuanqing as a starting point and linked it to the Weibo post that Gu Xingyin had posted not long ago. From that report, we can see that movie queen Wan and the young master of the Zhou Corporation have maintained an intimate relationship for at least a year. There must be many netizens who have guessed that movie queen Wan posted a photo on Weibo not long ago. Could it be the same person? Please analyze it for everyone. Then, the OP who claimed to be the informant started to dig up information in a very professional tone. He even made a list of Zhou Chuanqing's itinerary. In the end, he came to the conclusion that the man in Ruan Ke's photo with their fingers interlocked was definitely not Zhou Chuanqing. In that case, Ruan Ke was two-timing? This didn't match her usual image in the rumors. The original poster just saw that Star Entertainment's public relations has already released a statement saying that movie queen Wan and young master Zhou have no intimate relationship. However, until now, I haven't seen any statement from the Zhou Corporation. Then, can the original poster understand that young master Zhou has silently admitted to this matter? The original poster didn't stop there. He wrote a lot more after that, saying that Ruan Ke's private life was very messy before she became famous. She had a few boyfriends in the fashion industry and so on. He couldn't wait to expose Ruan Ke's 18 generations of ancestors. Once the post was posted, it caused a huge commotion. Chapter 142. Although the post was quickly deleted by Star Entertainment, it caused a huge reaction. Many fans ran to Ruan Ke's Weibo to curse, saying that they had been cheated of their feelings. Gu Xingyin browsed through the comments. There were definitely paid posters, but there were definitely a lot of fans. These people, yesterday they said that they would love you forever, but today they turned their backs and called you a bitch. Gu Xingyin thought that if the real Ruan Ke saw these words, how sad would she be? Chen Rong came over early to accompany her. Seeing her sitting there thinking about something, she thought that her mood was affected and comforted her. Don't think too much. The company's public relations team has already done their best. This matter will be resolved. Her voice turned cold as she said, someone must be defaming you behind the scenes. If I can't find out who it is, just wait for Star Entertainment's anger. Star Entertainment acted quickly. They released a statement saying that in Yan Ming's previous post, the rumors about Ruan Ke in the fashion industry and her private life were all false. Those so-called photos were all photoshopped products. They also stated that the original poster of the post had damaged the reputation of Star Entertainment's employees. They would submit a lawyer's letter to the court. However, the public's main concern was not answered. After Ruan Ke posted the photo of her holding hands with her lover, there were also photos of her and Zhou Chuanqing being intimate. Star Entertainment denied it, but Zhou Chuanqing did not say anything. Star Entertainment's public relations team had contacted Zhou Chuanqing, but he refused to clarify the matter. If I hadn't experienced this, I wouldn't have known that Zhou Chuanqing was such a person. Chen Rong gritted her teeth in anger. He seemed like a good person before, but he's not even willing to help. Gu Xingyin was obviously calmer than her. After all, she already knew what kind of person Zhou Chuanqing was. At this time, Gu Xingyin received a call from Ludwig. Ke, such a big thing happened, why didn't you tell me? Gu Xingyin said with a smile, you are abroad. What can you do if I tell you? Ludwig heard her calm voice, as if she wasn't affected by public opinion. Only then did he feel relieved. No matter what, you've suffered so much, and I'm not by your side. This is not a qualified boyfriend. Gu Xingyin chuckled and exchanged a few words with him. The other party seemed to be a little busy, so she hung up the phone. Is it Ludwig? Chen Rong asked. Gu Xingyin nodded. Chen Rong was originally a little worried, but when she saw Gu Xingyin smile, she knew that Ludwig hadn't distanced himself from her because of this matter. She couldn't help but worship her idol even more. This was a real man. Little did she know that her idol had yet to become even more manly. Just as the entire entertainment industry was in an uproar, and there were even anti-fans who were clamoring for the Rowan bitch to get out of the entertainment industry, a statement shocked the entire Z country's entertainment industry. He is from Ludwig, I'm Ludwig Gardner, Kai's boyfriend. No, very soon, my identity will become her husband. In response to the public opinion on the internet, my response is that my legal team has already drafted a lawyer's letter to all media outlets that have maliciously slandered my lover. I hope that you will delete the relevant false rumors within 24 hours. Otherwise, we will meet in court. Kai and I have a very good relationship, and we are already preparing to get married. Furthermore, I have absolute confidence that my lover only loves me. I hope that everyone will stop discussing this matter. Thank you. Chapter 143. Ludwig's statement undoubtedly injected a new wave of energy into the fans who were still bitterly defending their idols. Ah, it's Ludwig. My idol is so handsome. A wave of PDA in the middle of the night. Although I was abused, I still want to say, well done. Hee hee, let's see if those mad dogs will still come out and bite people. I was originally on Fong Kei's side, but after seeing Ludwig's statement, I think I've fallen for him. A man who stands up for his woman at a critical moment is a real man. Above, Ludwig is a real man. Hee hee, who would be stupid enough to want a woman like Fong Kei? Above, you never brush your teeth. Why is your mouth so smelly? Curse your entire family. Less than 2 hours after the statement was posted, Ludwig arrived at Gu Xingyin's apartment. Why are you here? Gu Xingyin looked at him. The man's eyes were obviously bruised. It was obvious that he hadn't rested well on the way here. How could I leave you here alone? Ludwig reached out and hugged her. Sorry, I'm late. Chen Rong tactfully retreated, not wanting to disturb the two. Gu Xingyin stayed in Ludwig's arms, feeling the corners of her eyes sting. To be honest, this situation didn't defeat her. What really moved her was this man's attitude. The person who truly cares about you is not the number of expensive gifts he can give you, but the fact that when you are being criticized, he is the first to stand up and protect you. To everyone's surprise, not long after Ludwig's statement was posted, Zhou Chuanqing also released a statement, stating that there was no ambiguous relationship between him and Fong Kei. He also revealed the truth of the photo. At the same time, a few celebrities who claimed to be insiders also released statements, saying that they were there and could testify that Fong Kei accidentally stepped on her skirt and almost fell. Zhou Chuanqing was kind enough to help her up. Someone even anonymously posted a set of photos, showing the scene of Fong Kei falling. The only difference was that the angle of the photo was different, but the truth was clear. The rumors about Fong Kei having a foot in 2 boats were easily resolved. Although there were still a few anti-fans jumping around, no one cared about them anymore. Did you do this? Gu Xingyin looked at the man who was peeling fruit for her. Ludwig handed her the peeled apple. I just sent an email to the Zhou Corporation in the name of the Gardner family. This man. Gu Xingyin took a bite of the apple. It was so sweet. Fong Kei's Weibo account had a new update. This time, he didn't hide it. In the small photo frame, Ludwig and Fong Kei were intimately snuggled together. Their intertwined hands also appeared in the camera, and the emeralds on their ring fingers shone brightly. The benefits of a dog with a face, I'm taking this painting away. Fuck, the ring lit up. Have the two of them really reached this stage? Fuck, the ring lit up. Such a big emerald, how much did it cost? Fuck, the ring lit up. Upstairs, you can go online and search for the Gardner family. Am I the only one who noticed that Ludwig was clearly in D country the day before, and now he's already beside Her Majesty? I noticed it too. So considerate, so sweet. I'll drink this bowl of dog food. Fuck, I just searched for the Gardner family. Is he really from the Gardner family? No, I have to go downstairs and run 2 laps to calm down. I wish you happiness. Chapter 144. Just as Ludwig had said, their wedding took place quickly. Ruan Kai's parents were quite satisfied with their son-in-law, even though they were a little resentful that their daughter had kept it from them. The old man was a good judge of character. He could tell that this man cherished Yan Zhi's every move. Young people, as long as you're happy, that's good. Their wedding was held in a very high profile. Originally, the two of them wanted to hold their wedding in a low-key manner. However, Ruan Kai had encountered such an incident, and Ludwig did not want anyone to make an issue out of their wedding. As a result, the netizens who watched the entire live broadcast learned something new. Oh my god, that's the supermodel Lilith Bitter. Ball Queen Beyoncé. The two people upstairs are nothing. Can't you see that the first person sitting on the left of the VIP seats is the Foreign Affairs Minister of Country D? I don't understand. Where is this place? In the Cathedral of the Holy Sun, the person who witnessed their marriage was an archbishop who was personally appointed by the Pope. There's a type of wedding called someone else's wedding. There's a type of wedding called someone else's wedding +1. A few days ago, didn't an A-list celebrity broadcast a video of a so-called luxurious wedding? Compared to him, he's nothing. Her Majesty the Queen looks so beautiful in her wedding dress. So beautiful, so beautiful, so beautiful. Mommy asked me why my face is so close to the screen. Miss Ruan Kai, are you willing to? The kind-looking bishop read the marriage vows solemnly. I'm willing, Ruan Kai said clearly. She looked deeply at the man in front of her. It was not the first time she had held a wedding with this man, but every time, it could bring her a new feeling of gratitude. I love you. The murmured words disappeared between their lips. All the guests applauded at the same time, giving their blessings to the newlyweds. Damn it, it was such a happy scene, but I actually cried when I saw it. Me too, upstairs. I think Her Majesty the Queen really doesn't have it easy. I'm crying too. I wish them happiness for the rest of their lives. May they be happy all their lives. Just when everyone was speculating whether Ruan Kai, who had married into a super-rich family, would quit the entertainment industry, Gu Xingyin posted her honeymoon photos. Every time the two of them appeared in different places, the only thing that remained the same was the happy smile on their faces. Gu Xingyin released a statement saying that she loved acting and would not quit the entertainment industry, but would focus more on her family in the future. Just like that, she continued to release one movie after another. Many people were maliciously guessing when the two of them would get divorced and waiting for their scandals. After all, it was not uncommon for such a celebrity to have a miserable life after marrying into a rich family. However, Gu Xingyin and Ludwig disappointed them. No matter if it was the first year, the second year, or the 10th year, people would always see the two of them hugging each other happily. In the end, no one doubted their feelings. Everyone silently wished that this couple could be together forever and never leave each other. Gu Xingyin smiled happily when she left. She had been in love with her husband all her life. When she was old, she had children and grandchildren. As a woman, she was undoubtedly the object of envy. She did not feel sad at all. She even said to the white-haired Ludwig, "Don't feel reluctant to part with me. God will let us meet again." Yes, they would meet again. Their fate would never stop. Chapter 145. Let's get to work, let's get to work. In the shabby studio, a man with messy hair and a cigarette in his mouth was yelling. Hurry up, Ming Shujia. What are you dawdling for? Ming Shujia was just a little slow and was scolded by the man. She stood up numbly. She had heavy makeup on her face and wore a vulgar red dress. If someone were to look at her, no one would be able to recognize that she was the pure and lovely Ming Shujia of the past. She was now a famous porn star in the otaku circle. In layman's terms, she was a low-class artist who relied on selling her body to gain attention. Where's your expression? Aren't you being tortured? Ming Shujia, don't you want to film anymore? The man with the cigarette stood up and yelled. Do you still think you're the woman of the Prince of Star Entertainment? Act well for me. If it weren't for your pretty face, would have changed you a long time ago. Ming Shujia finished a day of filming like a zombie and returned to the small apartment she rented in exhaustion. She turned on the TV and saw the trailer of Ruan Kei's new movie. Ever since she got married, her popularity didn't drop. Instead, it became even more popular. The internet often reported on her and her husband's loving daily life. Every time Ruan Kei was filming, as long as Ludovic was free, he would definitely go to the set to pick up his wife. Even one of their children had the same surname as their mother. Did Ming Shujia hate Ruan Kei? Without a doubt, she hated her. It was all thanks to Ruan Kei that she became what she was today. She was the one who found someone to expose the scandal that caused such a sensation. She just couldn't stand Ruan Kei's glamorous appearance and wanted to ruin her reputation. She didn't expect the Gardner family to be so powerful and directly put pressure on Star Entertainment. Yu Xiang also abandoned her immediately and banned her. Her past interactions with those investors were all exposed. The time, place, and who she was with were all clear, and there was no room for debate. No entertainment company in the country was willing to sign her. She had no choice but to choose a small production studio. Because her reputation was completely ruined, the roles she could get were all vicious and promiscuous. Her pay was barely enough to make a living. Standing in the bathroom, Ming Shujia allowed the ice-cold water to pour down from the top of her head. In a trance, she recalled the time when she first came into this body. At that time, he was confident, proud, and ambitious. He felt that he would definitely be able to make a name for himself in the Z country's entertainment industry with his ability to foresee the future. However, why did everything turn out like this? She couldn't understand. She hastily took a shower and fell onto the bed before she could even dry her trembling wet hair. She didn't have time to think about those things now. She had to go to bed quickly. She had to get up early tomorrow to rush to the set. Ming Shujia closed her eyes tiredly. After Gu Xingyin returned to the space, she didn't stay for long before hurrying to the next world. However, when she opened her eyes, she was completely dumbfounded. Anyone who opened their eyes and found themselves lying in a coffin, even if the coffin was unusually spacious and luxurious, it couldn't hide the fact that it was a coffin, would be stupefied. Chapter 146. System. Gu Xingyin called out to the system as she sat up and surveyed her surroundings. Without a doubt, she was in a very large room. The room was very dark. Gu Xingyin surveyed her surroundings. Based on the furnishings around her, this should be a bedroom. Who would place a coffin in a bedroom? The system finally appeared. Host, your body this time is Catherine Brooke, princess of the blood race's Brooke family. Blood race? Before Gu Xingyin could react, a huge amount of information flooded her mind. When Princess Brooke's memories, which spanned over tens of thousands of years, flooded her mind, even Gu Xingyin's incomparably strong soul was greatly impacted. She sat in the luxurious coffin in a daze for quite a while. The blood race was known as the undead race. They did not age or die and had an almost eternal lifespan. At the same time, they possessed powers that ordinary humans could not hope to attain. The hierarchy of the blood race was very strict. Since the extinction of the blood race's ancestor, Cain, and the second generation of the blood race, the third generation blood race, who were known as the princes, were the strongest of the blood race. The body that Gu Xingyin was currently occupying was one of the two princes of the blood race, the leader of the Brooke family, which was known as the strongest fighting race of the blood race. The other prince was from another race of the blood race, the Makavi family. Unlike the Brooke family, who loved to fight, the Makavi family was known as the lunatics of the blood race. When they were quiet, they were more gentlemanly and elegant than the human royalty. However, once the madness in their bones was triggered, they were more terrifying than the cruelest of demons. The prince of the Makavi family, Owen Makavi, was also the fiancé of Princess Brooke. Gu Xingyin combed through her memories. Fortunately, the marriage between Catherine and Owen was just an agreement between the two races. The two of them did not interfere with each other's affairs. Speaking of which, in the thousands of years of marriage between the two, Owen, who was naturally a playboy, had changed lovers countless times. Fortunately, Catherine the Great loved to fight and didn't like strangers getting close to her. Princess Brooke, who had lived for tens of thousands of years and was still a virgin, was the target of all the blood breeds. Owen McAvoy had even joked that he would personally transform anyone who could spend a night with Her Highness Catherine and bestow him with great power. Only the Blood clan, who were known for their lack of moral integrity, could say such words. Unfortunately, to this day, no one has been able to fulfill this condition. Gu Shengyin got up from the coffin and stepped barefoot on the scarlet goose down carpet. Her skin was exceedingly white, and against the crimson carpet, she was stunningly beautiful. Gu Shengyin carefully observed her surroundings as she walked. She had to admit that the bloodlings were a race that knew how to enjoy life. Everywhere she looked, there was nothing that wasn't luxurious and extravagant, yet she couldn't detect a trace of tackiness. She only felt that it was incomparably luxurious and made people not dare to look at it directly. The long lifespan of the bloodlings gave them unlimited advantages. They were rich, romantic, interesting, and were born beautiful. They even had enough time to nurture their sense of beauty. Gu Shengyin arrived in front of the huge carved ivory mirror. It was said that this mirror was the work of a human master 100 years ago. It had been kept in the emperor's treasury for decades as a treasure. No one knew that the mirror in the emperor's treasury was just a defective product. The real perfect work had long been in the hands of the princess of the blood breeds. The figure in the mirror appeared in Gu Shengyin's eyes. Chapter 147. Without a doubt, the female lead of each world was usually born with the fortune of the world, and their looks were usually not bad. The female leads that Gu Shengyin had experienced in the previous worlds were also all worthy of the title of Shunhua. However, there was no one like Queen Ekaterina Brooke, who gave people such a big impact at first sight. She was undoubtedly extremely beautiful. Her eyes were a mysterious dark gold color. They were deep and unruly, like two bottomless pools that could easily make people sink into them. Her skin was very white, like the finest and most exquisite ivory. Her red lips were like flames, and when she opened them slightly, she could casually spit out a sentence that could make people go crazy. She had an extremely beautiful head of long red curly hair, which naturally fell to her ankles. With a slight movement, it was as if it was going to burn. She was a peerless beauty. However, this beauty also had the power to look down on the world. If she wanted to, she could destroy a kingdom with a wave of her hand. Such a woman would undoubtedly make people fearful, and would also make men have an unprecedented desire to conquer her. At this moment, this beauty was frowning slightly. Such an action from her face did not affect her beauty at all, but it would make people want to erase the things that affected her mood. Unfortunately, the system was not human, and it did not care much about the host's beauty. System, my power, seems to be a bit wrong. Gu Shengyin furrowed her brows. She had just discovered that there was another type of power in her body apart from the blood tribe's bloodline power. This was not a small matter. If there was a conflict between the two powers, even for her, it would not be a small matter. The system replied, I was just about to explain to the host that the host has successfully completed 5 world missions. From this world onwards, the host can choose to take away the power of any of the world's protagonists. The first time the system randomly selected, the host will have the Ice Soul Sword Heart of Gu Weixin in the Xianxia world, and have the ability to transform the blood of the blood breeds into sword energy. Gu Shengyin, a blood breeds prince who uses a sword. Isn't this style a bit wrong? The system said, of course, the host can choose not to use this skill. Friendly reminder, although the bloodline makes you powerful, it also restricts some things. For example, vampires can't see sunlight. Even someone as strong as a prince is only slightly better at resisting sunlight than ordinary vampires. Gu Shengyin nodded, I understand what you mean. As long as it doesn't affect me in any way, I don't mind learning another skill. It's never a burden to have more skills. You might even be able to save your life at a critical moment. At this moment, someone knocked on Gu Shengyin's door. Your Highness, your dinner is ready, the waiter outside the door said respectfully. The heavy door opened silently. Gu Xingyin walked out unhurriedly. The servant didn't even dare to raise her head. She felt like she couldn't breathe in front of the prince. This was the bloodline suppression that a high-level blood breed had over a low-level blood breed. However, at this moment, Gu Xingyin, who was sitting at a long square table that could accommodate dozens of people, was speechless as she looked at the luxurious dinner in front of her. A cup of fresh blood. Gu Xingyin was speechless. Even if her acting skills were good, she really couldn't drink this blood. Chapter 148. Fortunately, someone came in time to save her. Catherine, my fiancée, long time no see. A low voice sounded. At the same time, the man floated into the castle like a gust of wind. Gu Xingyin's expression did not change, but her body swayed slightly and disappeared. Sigh, you really don't look like a woman. A melancholic voice sounded from where Gu Xingyin was sitting. There was no need to guess. There was only one person who dared to call Princess Brooke by her name, Linwen McAvoy. Gu Xingyin raised her head and looked at the fiancé of the original body. The skin of the blood clan was top-notch, not to mention Linwen, who was a pure-blood prince. At this moment, he was wearing a noble suit from the Middle Ages. His golden hair was neatly combed behind his ears, revealing his handsome facial features. His mesmerizing blue eyes were filled with melancholy, making people unable to help but feel pity for him. Seeing Gu Xingyin looking over, Linwen revealed a regretful smile. Catherine, no matter what, we have been engaged for thousands of years, but I have not even succeeded in hugging you. Gu Xingyin said coldly, I don't feel at ease letting such a dangerous person like you get close to my body. Look, you don't know how to have fun. Linwen seemed to be helpless against her. In this world, fighting is not the only thing that can make people happy. He looked at Gu Xingyin teasingly. If you are willing to believe me this once, I will bring you the most extreme happiness in the world, Gu Xingyin raised her eyebrows and looked at him. Her red lips lifted, revealing a smile that could make people fall head over heels for her. Linwen was stunned. Why did he feel that this woman seemed to be different? If it was in the past, she would not have revealed such a smile. It was really, damn seductive. Happy things? Gu Xingyin pondered these words carefully. When Linwen looked at her, she raised her eyebrows and said viciously, even if I want to, I won't find a man who I don't know how many hands he has, right? Linwen choked for a moment before he sneered, Catherine, if it weren't for your bloodline, I wouldn't believe that a woman like you could be a pure vampire. Gu Xingyin smirked. You should know that if it weren't for your bloodline, you would have been reduced to ashes a long time ago. Linwen did not care about her sarcasm. He suddenly stood up, and in a flash, he came to Gu Xingyin's side, stopping at a distance that would not make her feel disgusted. In this world, I'm the only one who dares to speak to you like that, right? My fiancé. He suddenly let out a long laugh and disappeared. Gu Xingyin stood up and walked back to her bedroom. It was not until a long time after she had left that a servant walked into the living room, trembling with fear. Prince Makavi did not hide his identity when he came to Brooke's Nightingale Castle. These servants had already hidden far away. No one would dare to eavesdrop on the conversation between the two princes even if they were given 100 guts. The servant looked at the untouched blood in the cup with infatuation and licked his lips. This was the purest and freshest virgin blood. Other than high-ranking vampires who were counts and above, ordinary people would not be able to enjoy it. Chapter 149. Lancelot Lane had a very strange dream. A woman appeared in his dream. He could not see the woman's face clearly. Sometimes, he even felt that the woman looked different every time she appeared, but he knew that it was the same person. In his dream, he was madly in love with that woman. After waking up from the dream, the burning feeling in his heart did not fade for a long time. He felt that he had fallen in love with that woman. He wanted to find her. If his diehard followers knew about this, they would definitely mock him for a long time. So many beautiful and cute ladies were chasing after him, but he had fallen in love with a woman who did not even exist in his absurd dream. He got out of bed, changed his clothes, and started to walk outside with his sword. "Young master, where are you going?" the white-haired old butler asked curiously. "I'm going out for a while." He felt that the impulse in his heart came out of nowhere, but strangely, he did not reject it. Instead, he was secretly excited. It was as if someone was guiding him. The person he was looking for was far away in the north. At this moment, a girl came to the Dark Knight Castle in the McAvoy territory in the south. The target of the mission has appeared. Gu Shengyin sighed. If this story did not have Ekaterina Brooke, it would be a story of a handsome blood clan prince and an ordinary human girl. The beautiful human girl, Rita, caught the eye of the blood clan prince who was out looking for food. The blood clan prince, who had only intended to enjoy her once, brought her back to the castle because of the girl's unusually delicious blood. He planned to make her a long-term meal ticket. The girl did not resist. In fact, very few humans could resist the beauty and immortality of the blood clan. But the girl was not willing to be an unknown lover. She wanted to become the official wife of Orrin McAvoy. But there was still a high and mighty woman, Ekaterina Brooke. Even without Ekaterina, the McAvoy family would not agree to the prince choosing a human girl to be his wife. If the girl's blood was not pure, the future heir would not be a noble pureblood. Actually, there was still a chance. As long as Orrin insisted, no one would dare to go against the prince's power. Unfortunately, Rita, who had fallen into madness, did not think so much. In order to become a noble pureblood, she thought of a way: blood exchange. Whose blood should he exchange for? Naturally, it was the woman with the most noble bloodline in the entire blood race, Ekaterina Brooke. It was no doubt difficult to plot against a prince. Rita had been preparing for this for almost 1,000 years. She took advantage of Princess Brooke's weakness and sealed her away with a bunch of equally ambitious vampire allies. However, this matter could not be considered a success because before Rita could make a move, Prince Makavi had rushed over. Almost at the instant he saw the female duchess lying in the coffin, he was so furious that he tore everyone present into pieces. However, he was still unable to wake up his fiancée from her deep slumber. Can the blood exchange really succeed? Gu Shengyin suddenly asked. The system replied, the blood breeds rely on blood to pass down their power. Theoretically speaking, Rita's idea can be realized. Furthermore, after obtaining all of your blood, she will also inherit the dark energy in your blood. Gu Shengyin. This world is not beautiful at all. Chapter 150. It was said that Prince Makavi of the Dark Knight Castle had a new favorite. Not only did he prepare a grand banquet for her, but he also announced that he would change her publicly at the banquet. This was a rare thing. Everyone knew that Prince Makavi had always been flirtatious and he had countless lovers. However, there were very few who could receive this honor. If the prince personally carried out the embrace, as long as the lucky human was not too unlucky, she would at least become an earl. Many blood breeds were envious and jealous of this. Who asked them to not receive the prince's favor? Tonight, the Dark Knight Castle was very lively. Everyone wanted to see what kind of human could catch the eye of His Highness McAvoy, who was so arrogant. Rita was nervous and excited at the same time. She had been in the Dark Knight Castle for so long and already knew what kind of race the blood breeds were. She was not afraid at all. Instead, she was excited and looking forward to what was going to happen next. Becoming an immortal blood breed was such a good thing. Although she would lose sunlight, she could obtain almost everything else: beauty, strength, wealth, power, and immortality. She felt her blood boiling. Oh, Linwen turned his head as if he sensed something. He leaned over and looked at her. You can't wait anymore? Rita's face was slightly red and her eyes were bright. She was about to say something when the hall suddenly quieted down. Other than Oh Linwen, all the blood breeds in the hall lowered their noble heads at the same time. Rita, on the other hand, did not feel much because she was a human. She opened her eyes wide and looked at the woman who walked in slowly. She was so shocked that she could not speak. She knew that the blood breeds were exceptionally beautiful. However, in front of this woman, all the other blood breeds were reduced to accessories. Catherine, what brings you here? She heard the man beside her call out her name. His tone was different from the solemn one in the past. I heard that you are going to change into a blood descendant. I have nothing to do, so I came to take a look. The woman's voice seemed to have a unique rhythm. It was slightly low, but it was able to evoke the deepest desire in one's heart. Rita's body trembled uncontrollably. It wasn't out of fear, but excitement. The man beside her seemed to laugh briefly. In 3,000 years, this is the first time you have come to my dark night castle. What an honor, my fiancé. Rita was shocked. Fiancé? This man actually had an engagement? She glanced at Gu Xingyin in confusion. The next second, she lowered her gaze as if she didn't dare to look straight at her. He actually had such a beautiful and noble fiancée, so why did he come to find her? Gu Xingyin glanced at Rita. She had long curly red hair, light brown eyes, and a fair complexion. She was considered a rare beauty among humans, but she was not very eye-catching among the blood clan. However, why did he feel that she looked a little familiar? Gu Xingyin thought for a while but did not come up with an answer. Of course, she had a purpose for coming here today. Her long red dress trailed on the ground as the high and mighty Duchess walked towards Rita step by step. Rita felt that her breathing was about to stop. That seductive and domineering face appeared in front of her. Then, a fair and flawless finger gently lifted her chin. This human girl is to my liking. Owen, why don't you give her to me? Chapter 151. All the blood clan members lowered their heads, but their ears were pricked up. So this was the reason why Princess Brooke had avoided men for so many years. The blood clan had never abstained from sex, and men and women were not a big deal. Some of the female blood clan members were even thinking about how to recommend themselves to Nightingale Castle. Liwen's expression turned ugly. He looked at Gu Xingyin and said coldly, Catherine, I was the one who took a liking to her first. Gu Xingyin looked at him strangely. Was Liwen angry? That shouldn't be the case. Logically speaking, Owen had only treated Rita as a tasty prey. Since she had asked for Rita, there was no reason for him to be angry. Could it be that she had miscalculated and Liwen had taken a liking to her now? However, she would not give up. Well, isn't it still up to this lovely lady to decide for herself? Gu Xingyin lowered her body and moved closer to Rita. Then, lovely lady, are you willing to accept my embrace and become the blood descendant of me, Catherine Brooke, and become a noble member of the Brooke family? Even the breaths of the blood clan members were slightly cold. However, this slight coldness caused Rita's ears to heat up. She mustered her courage and looked up at Gu Xingyin, but she was caught in a pair of deep, dark golden eyes. Those eyes seemed to contain magic, and Rita felt that her soul was about to fall into them. I'm willing. Before Rita could say the word willing, she felt herself falling into a familiar embrace. It was Owen. She heard the incomparably beautiful woman sigh softly. Rita almost broke free from Owen's embrace because of this sigh. She ran to her side and covered her mouth. Rita's heart was about to break when she heard this sigh. Enough, Catherine the Great. Liwen seemed to be a little irritated. Don't you think it's beneath you to use your seduction on an ordinary human? Gu Xingyin sighed. She had planned to turn Rita into a blood clan member before she could do so. This way, as her blood descendant, Rita would no longer have the opportunity to deal with her. This could be considered a permanent solution. Everything went smoothly, but he didn't expect Liwen to be so uncooperative. She straightened up and looked at Liwen. It's not like you to be so petty, Liwen. Owen regained his composure and let go of Rita. He smiled and said, I'm not being stingy. In front of so many vampires, what will happen to the McAvoy clan's reputation if you embrace my chosen bloodline? Gu Xingyin thought to herself, who are you trying to fool? Even if these people were gossiping to death in their hearts, they would never have the guts to spread the news that His Highness the Prince did not want others to know. Gu Xingyin rolled her eyes and knew that it was impossible to change Rita's mind. She could use force, but that wasn't Catherine's style. It would also arouse Livingston's suspicions and make him more interested in Rita. Then, how are you going to make it up to me? Li Wen, I'm not in a good mood now. Gu Xingyin walked to a chair at the side and sat down lazily. Li Wen looked at this woman. He had never realized that this woman who only knew how to fight had such a lazy and sexy side to her. Everyone in my castle of night, except Rita. You can pick anyone you like. How about that? Chapter 152. Li Wen was in a good mood as he looked at Catherine with furrowed brows. His gaze swept across the vampires in the banquet hall. Many of them were looking at her eagerly, hoping to catch the eye of the princess. However, Princess Brooke closed her eyes as if she was sensing the people in the castle. Then, she opened her eyes and said to Li Wen, "The man who walked into the castle of darkness and was tied up by your people is him." Her tone was casual, as if she was taking away a cat or a dog. Li Wen didn't mind and agreed readily. In an instant, he contacted the guards who were escorting the human who had broken into the castle of darkness and brought him over. However, he regretted it the moment he stepped into the banquet hall. This human. He actually had an appearance that was not inferior to any of the blood breeds. Most importantly, he gave off a feeling that was like the warmest sunlight. The more they couldn't have something, the more they would be obsessed with it. This was the common trait of all living creatures. The vampires who couldn't see the light from birth had the ambition to embrace the sunlight. It was no wonder that Catherine, who didn't like humans, chose him. Lancelot's gaze was fixed on one person the moment he stepped into the banquet hall. It was her. Although this woman looked different from the woman in his dreams, his strong feeling told him that she was the one he was looking for. Gu Xingyin was in a good mood as her lover stared at her with such passion. However, on the surface, she looked at Lancelot with a look of disdain. Your looks are all right, but your strength is a little too weak. Lancelot was taken away by Gu Xingyin under Li Wen's gentle smile. Beautiful lady, let me introduce myself. I am Lancelot Ryan. Lancelot stared at Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin glanced at him lazily. Do you know that you are now my possession? Who allowed you to speak to me in such a tone? That's right, she wanted to prank him. Thanks to the vampire's powerful sixth sense, she sensed the lotus fragrance on Lancelot's body the moment he appeared in the Dark Knight Castle's territory. She waited for the man's expression to change. Who would have thought that Lancelot's face would be filled with excitement and even a little shyness? Your belongings? Does my entire being belong to you? So, how should I address you? My master? Gu Xingyin. Why are the lovers in this world so shameless? If the people of the Ryan family heard this, it was estimated that they would spit out a mouthful of blood, and then immediately cultivate a new heir. It was too shameful. In the end, Gu Xingyin managed to maintain her image. She looked at the fearless Lancelot in surprise. Do you know who I am? Lancelot shook his head sincerely. Gu Xingyin's lips curled into an evil smile. Vampires feed on the blood of ordinary people. Have you heard of that? Lancelot's expression immediately turned ugly. Gu Xingyin thought that he was afraid, but the man suddenly said, I know about vampires. I heard that when you suck the blood of humans, that person will feel the pinnacle of pleasure. He stared at Gu Xingyin and asked, have you ever made others feel this way before? Before Gu Xingyin could say anything, he suddenly stood up and leaned over to look at Gu Xingyin. He said domineeringly, no matter what happened in the past, from now on, you can only suck my blood. No one else. Chapter 153. From now on, you will be my valet. After saying these words, Catherine left Lancelot to the butler of Nightingale Castle. The strict and old-fashioned butler would teach him well how to be a qualified valet. It's time for you to get up, my master. A gentle voice woke Gu Xingyin from his deep sleep. She opened her eyes and saw Lancelot's face. The young master of the Ryan family, being a small valet in my castle, don't you feel unreconciled? Lancelot shook his head honestly. How could he not be reconciled? As long as he could stay by her side and see her every day, it was already the most wonderful thing in the world for him. Young Master Ryan was not a reserved master. He looked at his master affectionately and said, "It is my honor to be your personal servant." Who would have thought that Gu Xingyin's face would turn cold? She looked at Lancelot with an oppressive gaze. "Why? Don't tell me you fell in love with me because of my face?" Lancelot opened his mouth and said, "I did fall in love with you at first sight." Before Gu Xingyin could become unhappy, he continued to say, "But it wasn't the day before yesterday, it was in a dream. In the dream, there were many different shadows, but I was sure that they were the same person. And the moment I saw you, I knew that person was you." Gu Xingyin was sure that this man wasn't lying. Could it be that he still had memories of the previous world? She was somewhat happy. She hoped that one day, her lover could be like her, able to recognize her at a glance. After thinking for a moment, Gu Xingyin stretched out her hand and a long sword appeared in her hand. Unlike the swords in the hands of the knights of this world, this sword's appearance was clearly the appearance of the 3 feet long Qingfeng mountain in the world of immortal cultivation. "This is it." Lancelot stared at the sword in Gu Xingyin's hand. "The sword I saw in the dream had this strange appearance." Gu Xingyin thought of something and said to Lancelot, "Come here." She placed her hand on Lancelot's pulse and felt it inch by inch. Lancelot's face turned red. This was too fast. He wasn't ready yet. However, if she really wanted to, "What are you thinking about?" A cold voice interrupted his chaotic thoughts. Lancelot came back to his senses and found that Gu Xingyin had already let go of his hand. He suppressed the regret in his heart and smiled embarrassedly. Gu Xingyin was just feeling Lancelot's bones. Because she didn't have any tools in this world, she couldn't test the level of his sword heart. He could only use the method of feeling his bones to determine if he was suitable to become a sword cultivator. A high-level swordsman had a long lifespan. She did not want to change him, but she wanted to stay with him forever. Gu Xingyin sat in front of the long table, but didn't see the blood that usually appeared in front of her table. She heaved a sigh of relief. Now that she was cultivating the way of the sword, she had already reached the level where she didn't need to eat to maintain her bodily functions. Therefore, the weakness of bloodlings who didn't drink blood didn't affect her. Lancelot walked to her side and squatted down. "I said before that I don't want you to consume other people's blood, even if you don't drink it yourself. I'm willing to provide you with the freshest blood." He raised his head, revealing his weak and defenseless neck. Chapter 154. Gu Xingyin had a very strange feeling. She hated blood. In the past, no matter how much fresh blood the housekeeper of Nightingale Castle brought her, she only felt the smell of blood and never felt any temptation. But today was different. She looked at the gently pulsating blood vessels under Lancelot's white skin. The world's most delicious blood was flowing inside. An uncontrollable desire spread from the bottom of her heart. She wanted to drink his blood and even transform him. This impulse was too strong. When Gu Xingyin was alerted by the system in her mind, she found that her fangs had already been exposed and were pressing against the man's neck. She closed her eyes, retracted her fangs, and gently licked with her tongue. The man's body shook and his breathing suddenly became heavy. Seeing the woman get up, Lancelot was somewhat puzzled. "Why didn't you bite down?" He clearly felt that there was something hard against his neck, but she stopped at the last moment. Gu Xingyin didn't speak. She took Lancelot to a room and let him attack her with all his strength. Lancelot was somewhat puzzled. Gu Xingyin only said one sentence to dismiss him. "I just want to know if my valet has the ability to protect himself when I am attacked." She didn't say whether he could protect her, but whether he could protect himself. Lancelot had heard of the rumors of the vampires. These days, when he got along with Gu Xingyin, he could also feel the great power contained in her body. He didn't speak anymore. He pulled out the sword at his waist and rushed towards Gu Xingyin. However, even when he was gasping for breath, he couldn't even touch the corner of Gu Xingyin's clothes. Lancelot was frustrated. He had always been proud of his strength, but he didn't expect that he, who was already considered a strong human, would be so powerless in front of the vampires. Gu Xingyin's words made him even more uncomfortable. "With your strength, you can only deal with some low-level vampires. Even if it's just a small count, you won't be a match for him. Of course, he knew what kind of person the woman he liked was. In the entire vampires, she was the highest existence. He didn't deserve her. Do you need me to convert you? Gu Shengyin slowly walked over and whispered in his ear. It was extremely tempting. As long as I transform you, you will immediately obtain great power. Lancelot was tempted for a moment. No. His eyes quickly became firm. He looked at Gu Shengyin and said, if I am transformed by you and become your blood descendant, I will never be worthy of you in this lifetime. Gu Shengyin was a little surprised, and then she laughed. Yes, this person had been so submissive to her these days that she almost forgot how prideful he was. How could he tolerate this? Well, you know. If you don't want to be transformed by me, a human's lifespan is only a mere 100 years, but I am immortal. Gu Shengyin looked at him coldly. She looked at the man's confused eyes and decided not to tease him anymore. Something was thrown in front of Lancelot. It was that strange-looking sword. Since you don't want to be transformed by me, then use this sword to prove it. Gu Shengyin looked at Lancelot and said, I will teach you how to become a swordsman. If you are talented enough, you might be able to surpass me one day. Because he was her lover, she could tell him without any reservations and didn't have to worry that he would be disloyal. Chapter 155. As Gu Shengyin had expected, Lancelot's talent was so good that it was simply astonishing. Li Wen had been coming to Nightingale Castle from time to time, which made Gu Shengyin a little annoyed. Li Wen, is your McAvoy family so free these days? Gu Shengyin said coldly. The fellow sitting in front of the chair did not seem to understand that his master did not welcome him and said leisurely, I'm here to see my fiancée. What, is there a problem? Gu Shengyin sneered. She also found a chair and sat down with an elegant posture. Li Wen, we both know about our engagement. What is going on? Just like in the past thousands of years, you play with your lover, I live my life. Everyone is at peace with each other. Otherwise, I will unilaterally announce the cancellation of the engagement with you. Catherine, we have known each other for so many years. How can you be so heartless? Li Wen played with the sparkling and translucent crystal cup in his hand and smiled gently, if one ignored the cold light that flashed in his eyes because of Gu Shengyin's words. A prince of the blood clan appearing in my castle has seriously affected the normal life of Nightingale Castle. Okay, I was wrong. If I miss you in the future, I will definitely inform you in advance. How about it? Li Wen said helplessly. Put away your affectionate appearance, Li Wen. I am not one of your little lovers. I won't fall for it. Tell me, what has happened recently? Li Wen glanced at her, seemingly surprised. Gu Shengyin glanced at him. If you, Li Wen, are really the kind of fellow who only thinks about beauty, I doubt that the Brooke family will have any need to cooperate with the McAvoy family. Li Wen laughed. You are still not polite with your words. As expected, it is your usual style, Catherine. His expression suddenly turned serious. I received news that the Vampire Hunter Association seems to be up to something big recently. Tell your Brooke tribesmen to be careful. Damn it, vampire, who was the one who came up with such an ungraceful name? Gu Shengyin's expression turned cold as well. The Vampire Hunter Association. We've been too lazy to deal with these little kittens all these years. I didn't expect them to be so bold. After Owen left, Lancelot walked in. Seeing Gu Shengyin frowning slightly, he spontaneously raised his hand to rub her brows. What are you worried about? He asked softly. Gu Shengyin closed her eyes and replied, isn't it because of you humans? We vampires have signed a contract with the human kingdom. The humans will provide us with fresh blood on a regular basis, while the vampires will be responsible for eliminating the threats from the werewolves and ferocious beasts in the northern mountains. I've always restrained my clansmen to abide by the contract, but your Human Vampire Hunter Association has always treated us as targets to be killed. Lancelot was at a loss for words. He had heard of the Vampire Hunter Association before. Not only had he heard of it, but he even knew that the association was very respected in his own country. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Gu Xingyin. She opened her eyes and laughed coldly. Don't find any excuses. I know very well what you humans are thinking. You are just guarding against the vampires. You are afraid that if we break the contract, with our powerful strength, the humans will not be a match for us. Chapter 156. She said sarcastically, what are you humans so afraid of? What might be a long life for you is just a short sleep in the eyes of us vampires. The things that you care about are nothing in our eyes. Even the so-called Vampire Hunter Association can be easily taken care of as long as I send an elder from the Brook clan. If we vampires have any ideas one day, you humans won't be able to stop us. Gu Xingyin looked at him but didn't say anything else. However, the vampires wouldn't. Although they were powerful, they were too few in number. Although they could turn humans into vampires through the embrace, it wasn't as simple as humans thought. The vampires treated their descendants with great care. A transformed descendant was equivalent to a child of the vampires. Moreover, the embrace required a large amount of blood essence. Very few vampires would be willing to transform a human unless they were especially fond of the human. Even a blood breed like Owen and Rita only had 3 blood descendants. Most of the other high-ranking blood breeds like dukes and earls only had 1 blood descendant. Of course, the original Catherine didn't transform anyone due to her personality. Gu Xingyin seemed to feel that this topic was too heavy and didn't continue. She separated a part of her spiritual energy and probed Lancelot. She was surprised to find that he had successfully become a swordsman. How's your training going? Lancelot was shocked when he heard this. I've been practicing according to the method you taught me. It's surprisingly smooth. There's nothing that I don't understand. Gu Xingyin thought that if the inner disciples of the cultivation world heard this, they would probably vomit blood. You've been here for almost 2 months. Since you're not willing to be the embrace, you should go back. Gu Xingyin asked him. Lancelot suddenly raised his head and looked straight at Gu Xingyin. Are you tired of me? Gu Xingyin looked at him. My Nightingale Castle isn't suitable for a human to live in for a long time, especially a weak human. Do you know how many vampires are tempted by your existence? If it weren't for my restraint, you would have been sucked dry by now. Lancelot lowered his head and didn't say anything. His hand was tightly holding onto the hilt of his sword. Gu Xingyin pointed at Lancelot's forehead. Lancelot only felt that there was something extra in his mind. It was about the swordsman's training method and the stellar sword sex training method. Lancelot felt that she was different from others. In the past 2 months since he had arrived at Nightingale Castle, all the rumors he had heard about the Grand Duchess were that she was cold, elegant, and unapproachable. However, she taught him a strange but powerful sword technique. She allowed him to get close to her and she would even smile at him. He suddenly grabbed the hilt of his sword, took a step forward, and grabbed Gu Xingyin's hand with his right hand. Gu Xingyin was shocked, but he did not let go. Lancelot looked at her deeply and said, Catherine, I would like to call you that. Do you know how I feel about you? Then, you've made so many exceptions for me. Does that count as an answer? Gu Xingyin raised her head and looked at the man who was taller than her by a head. She indirectly answered his question. If you want to be my man, you have to prove yourself with your strength first. Chapter 157. Your Highness, may I know why you summoned me? A handsome man bowed to Gu Xingyin. Sala, I need you to go to the Rose Duchy and teach those vampire hunters a lesson, Gu Xingyin said coldly. Sala's face was full of excitement. Sala obeys. He had long since found those hateful vampire hunters an eyesore. Gu Xingyin glanced at him. Don't overdo it. Sala quickly lowered his head. Yes, Your Highness. Gu Xingyin went to the Night Castle. She wanted to change her strategy with Rita. He wondered if Rita would still feel resentment and jealousy toward Gu Xingyin if the person she fell in love with was not Olivin. Rita was picking white roses in the garden of the Night Castle. There was only one type of flower in the entire castle. Coincidentally, white roses were Catherine's favorite. The vampires in the night castle didn't dare to stop Gu Shengyin. They could only inform their master who wasn't in the castle. Your Highness. Rita turned around and saw Gu Shengyin standing behind her. She didn't know how long Rita had been standing there looking at her. Gu Shengyin walked towards Rita step by step. She was wearing a royal dress today. It was said that it was very popular among humans. Her long skirt floated on the ground, drawing beautiful arcs in the air. Rita was a little nervous. She didn't know why Her Highness suddenly visited. Gu Shengyin bent down and picked the brightest white rose. She gently put it in Rita's hair. Very beautiful. She glanced at Rita and a faint smile appeared on her face. Rita suddenly blushed. She suddenly felt that Her Highness' smile was better than all the white roses in the garden. Gu Shengyin did it on purpose. She only had one goal, but there was no limit to the process. This time, she suddenly had an idea. If she were to increase Rita's favorability with her now, as long as Rita had enough favorability with her, would the blood swap in the original plot disappear? Her Highness is the prettiest. Rita suddenly blurted out such a sentence. As soon as the words left her mouth, she realized what she had said. Her face paled as she knelt down. Your Highness, please forgive my offense. She had heard that this prince of the Brook clan was the noblest existence among the vampires, just like her own father, Owen. Although he had never heard of Her Highness disliking others praising her beauty, his words just now were obviously too frivolous. Gu Shengyin lowered her eyes. She realized that this was a good opportunity to increase her favorability. She reached out with one hand and gently pulled Rita up. Make yourself at home. In fact, I like you very much. If it wasn't for Owen's insistence, would have brought you back to Nightingale Castle. She was slightly taller than Rita, and her posture almost hugged Rita. Rita only felt that her breath was filled with Her Highness' cold aura. However, Gu Shengyin didn't realize it at all. She continued to whisper affectionately into Rita's ear, such a cute little girl like you. When Oliwen came in, he saw this scene. His fiancée was dressed to the nines. She outshone all the white roses in the garden. His new favorite, Rita, was nestled in Catherine's arms shyly. Both of them were whispering something intimately. For some reason, Oliwen felt a little stifled. Chapter 158. What are the both of you doing? Gu Shengyin turned around and saw that Oliwen seemed to be a little unhappy. She glanced at Rita, who was standing very close to her, and suddenly realized something. Could it be that Owen was jealous because she was too close to his lover? Gu Shengyin took a step back and looked at him. I am here as a guest. Since you are not around, I can only admire the white roses in the garden with my cute little Rita. Rita looked at the distance between the both of them. She did not know why, but she felt a little regretful. Oliwen looked at Catherine's expression and was sure that she did not have any improper thoughts about Rita. Only then did he feel relieved. His tone relaxed. If you are coming to the Dark Knight Castle, you can tell me in advance. I will definitely make time for you. Gu Shengyin looked at him with disdain. What is there to talk about with a man like you about? Oliwen, Rita, I suddenly feel like laughing. It turned out that Her Highness Catherine was such an interesting person. In the following days, Gu Shengyin visited the Dark Knight Castle frequently. Every time she visited, she would have a good chat with Rita. It was not that she did not notice Oliwen's expression, but she did not understand. She only wanted to chat with Rita. They were both women. What was there for Oliwen to be worried about? The system complained in its mind. Naive host, don't you know that the Blood clan has always been shameless? Even Oliwen himself likes both men and women. Oliwen looked at Catherine, who was getting along well with Rita. His eyes gradually darkened. On this day, after Gu Shengyin left, Oliwen went to Rita's room. Your Highness? Ah! Rita screamed. The next second, her neck was grabbed by O. Livingston. Stay away from her, Rita. Oliwen looked at her with bloodthirsty eyes. Rita's eyes flickered. Your Highness, I don't understand what you mean, Oli Wen tightened his grip on her neck. You don't understand? Catherine may not understand, but don't you understand? He slowly leaned close to her ear. Put away your shameful thoughts. She is not someone you can touch. After that, he released his grip on Rita and threw her to the ground. Cough, cough, cough. It took Rita a long time to catch her breath. She looked at the man who was sitting high above her. Suddenly, a surge of courage came out of nowhere as she blurted out the words in her heart. Your Highness, since you like Catherine so much, why don't you tell her? Why do you have to change lovers one by one? As soon as she said this, Oli Wen's aura suddenly turned violent. Rita spat out a mouthful of blood from the pressure. Oli Wen stared at her with bloodthirsty eyes. If you weren't my blood, would have sent you to see Cain just for what you just said. He didn't seem to want to see her again. His figure blurred and disappeared into the darkness. Rita was left sitting on the ground in a daze. After a long while, she let out a low chuckle. Since you like her, don't do things that will hurt your lover. Since you keep changing lovers one by one, it proves that you are not worthy of her. She slowly stood up and walked into the darkness. Her shadow was elongated under the dim light. It was distorted and strange as it slowly disappeared into the darkness. Chapter 159. When Gu Xingyin arrived at the Dark Knight Castle again, Rita was nowhere to be seen. I sent her to the Loki Kingdom, Oli Wen explained. Gu Xingyin looked at him in surprise, wondering why he was willing to let her go. She did not try to hide it and Oli Wen immediately understood what she meant. He gritted his teeth and said, Rita and I are not as close as you think. Oh, Gu Xingyin understood in a second. Scumbag. Oli Wen was helpless, but he did not know how to explain it to a person who was not enlightened, so he did not care. Gu Xingyin did not have anything to do. She could clearly feel the change in Rita's attitude towards her. It seemed that she had improved her relationship with Rita. Moreover, judging from the current situation, Rita and Oli Wen did not have a deep relationship. Thinking about it, in the original plot, the incident where Rita attacked him in order to be with Oli Wen would not happen. In that case, Gu Xingyin felt that he could take the time to visit a certain man. When Gu Xingyin arrived at the Ryan family mansion, it was late at night. She thought that she would have to go to his bedroom to see him, but she did not expect to see him at a training ground. He had been practicing his sword all night. She took a closer look at Lancelot's level and realized that he was already a swordsman. However, this could not calm Gu Xingyin's anger. It was true that a high-level swordsman could not sleep or rest, but for a low-level swordsman, sufficient rest was necessary. Otherwise, it would be a huge burden on the body. Lancelot, who was focused on practicing his sword, suddenly realized that he could not move. He then watched as the sword in his hand was forcefully taken away by a strong force. Just as he was about to activate the Ryan family's defense, he heard the voice that he had been thinking about day and night. You don't take your body seriously at all. Are you living too freely? Lancelot thought that he was dreaming. When he came back to his senses, he realized that the force that was restraining him had disappeared. She hurriedly turned around and looked at Gu Xingyin, who was wearing a cloak. You've come? Gu Xingyin heard the surprise in his voice, but put that aside for now. Didn't the memories I passed to you tell you that sword cultivation has very high requirements for the body? If you do this, you might be able to improve very quickly in a short period of time, but you're wasting your aptitude, do you know that? She said sternly. In fact, how could Lancelot not know? However, he couldn't wait any longer. When he thought of her conditions and the gap between them, he felt that he couldn't wait any longer. Since she came to see me, did it mean that she actually missed me too? When Lancelot thought of this possibility, he was overjoyed. He looked at Gu Xingyin, who was staring at him coldly. He was not affected by her cold face at all. He complained, I miss you every night. I can't sleep because I miss you. Gu Xingyin, she laughed angrily. Now it's my fault. So. Lancelot walked to her side. He hesitated for a moment, but still firmly held her hand. You can supervise me. Watch me every day and make sure that I rest on time. Then I won't let this affect my body. Gu Shengyin. Give him an inch, and he wants a mile. However, a certain man's shameless and superficial plan still succeeded. In his bedroom, a non-human successfully moved in. Chapter 160. Don't you need to sleep? Lancelot looked at Gu Shengyin innocently. Gu Shengyin stood aside coldly. No need. Didn't you want me to watch you sleep? You can sleep now. Lancelot didn't say much. He obediently started to take off his clothes. Jacket, inner shirt, until his firm upper body and smooth muscles were exposed. Then, Lancelot was dismayed to find that this woman did not even spare him a glance. The man didn't give up. He started to walk around the room again. He bent down to pick up something, then walked past Gu Shengyin and inadvertently showed the muscles on his arms. However, it was obvious that it didn't have any effect. When Gu Shengyin was done with his show, and he was done admiring it, he gave him a blow to the heart. Why aren't you sleeping yet? Lancelot, he could only lie back on the bed helplessly. He had thought that he wouldn't be able to sleep with his beloved beside him, but he hadn't expected his thoughts to be so calm. After a while, his breathing calmed down. Only when Gu Shengyin was sure that he had fallen asleep did the indifference on his face fade away like the tide. She slowly walked to Lancelot's side and looked at him quietly, as if she couldn't get enough of him. Lancelot woke up with a smile and looked in a certain direction out of habit. There was no one. He immediately woke up and looked around the room, but he didn't see anyone. What's going on? Could it be that everything that happened last night was just a beautiful dream? Lancelot was a bit disappointed. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice. What are you looking for? He was surprised and overjoyed when he saw Gu Shengyin appear in the room. I didn't see you just now. I thought last night was a dream. Gu Shengyin was silent for a bit before saying, Don't think too much. Since I promised you, I'll naturally supervise your swordsmanship. Lancelot blinked. Then during the day? He knew that vampires couldn't see daylight. However, Gu Shengyin shook her head. It's fine. Sunlight doesn't affect me much now. I'll just wear this cloak. As a result, the people of the Ryan family saw a mysterious person wearing a black cloak beside their young master. When the two of them appeared in front of the dining table, Lancelot then realized that Gu Shengyin seemed to be unable to accept human food. Who is this? Brought, Lancelot's father and the head of the Ryan family, asked in surprise. Father, she is my swordsmanship teacher, Lancelot said with a smile. Brat's attitude suddenly became enthusiastic. He knew that his son had been practicing strange swordsmanship recently. At first, he did not approve of it, until he saw the power of the swordsmanship. It was simply too mysterious and couldn't be explained with common sense. He was quite curious and respectful towards his son's teacher. Gu Shengyin's attitude was as polite but cold as ever. Brat didn't mind. Most experts had their own quirks. As for the fact that Gu Shengyin was a woman, he was only surprised for a moment. He invited Gu Shengyin to eat breakfast together. The taste buds of vampires couldn't actually detect the taste of human food. Gu Shengyin only ate 2 mouthfuls and then stopped. Mrs. Ryan's attention was drawn to the hand that reached out for the cloak. White, slender, perfect hands. Could a woman with such a pair of hands really be the teacher that taught her son such powerful swordsmanship? Mrs. Ryan felt that her son might have been deceived. When she heard that the two of them were going to the training field, she had an idea. Chapter 161. Young Master Ryan, I heard that you have a new swordsmanship teacher. I specially came to ask for advice. A blond man said to Lancelot. After he finished speaking, he looked at Gu Shengyin, who was wrapped in a black cloak but still had a graceful figure. His tone was full of undisguised contempt. I heard that your new teacher is actually a woman. He sized up Gu Shengyin. Such a weak woman should stay at home and be protected by a man. A weapon like a sword is not suitable for a woman. He looked at the sword in Lancelot's hand, his expression was full of disdain. It is indeed a woman's sword. It is so small, can it cut the enemy's throat when dealing with him? Lancelot was furious. This blond man was his previous swordsmanship teacher. His name was Hart. His swordsmanship was good, but he was arrogant and looked down on women. When Lancelot came back, he told his parents that he was learning a new swordsmanship and did not need a swordsmanship teacher. It seemed that this move made him unhappy. But how dare he humiliate her? Lancelot was about to speak, but Gu Xingyin stopped him. She looked at Hart with a faint smile. You want to compete with me? Hart looked proud, of course. Gu Xingyin nodded. Well, it seems that you don't like my swordsmanship. She stretched out her right hand and a sword appeared out of thin air. Hart was shocked by her move. He snorted and said, "You're just pretending to be mysterious." Gu Xingyin ignored him. Instead, he turned to Lancelot and said, "Take a good look. This is the prowess of sword arts." Lancelot was very curious. He had always known that Catherine was powerful, but he had never seen her use a sword. Then, his eyes widened. A bright sword light flashed. The huge sword in Hart's hand, which was said to be made of the strongest material, was cut into 2 pieces. The sword in Gu Xingyin's hand was pressed against his neck. A chill spread from Hart's neck to his entire body. He did not doubt that this sword could easily cut off his entire head, just like the broken sword on the ground. Tell me, with such a thin sword resting on your neck, do you think he can slit your throat? Gu Xingyin gently pushed the sword in his hand forward, and Hart immediately felt a sharp pain. Hart's expression did not change. He looked at Gu Xingyin. I apologize for my previous behavior. Your swordsmanship is very powerful. I am far behind. I, Hart, am convinced that I have lost to you. You can punish me as you wish. After he finished speaking, he closed his eyes, looking like he was ready to be killed. Gu Xingyin casually put away the sword in his hand and did not even look at him. Since you already know what you want to know, let's go. As she spoke, her gaze drifted in a certain direction. Mrs. Ryan, who was hiding in a small attic, felt a chill in her heart. She felt that her whereabouts had been discovered. Impossible. She comforted herself. This location was special. No matter how powerful that person was, it was impossible for him to discover her. Lancelot, who had been paying attention to Gu Xingyin, noticed her behavior. He quickly asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Gu Xingyin replied noncommittally. After Mrs. Ryan went downstairs, she thought for a moment and told her husband what happened today. "What did you say?" Brat was shocked and angry. Chapter 162. You're so stupid. Mr. Brat walked around the study twice. According to what you said, Lance's teacher was strong enough to subdue Hart with a single sword strike. It's not strange that she found you. Mr. Brat was a little depressed. Strong people like her are all proud and arrogant. What if she gets angry and leaves? What will happen to Lance? Mrs. Ryan was also a little anxious. I just wanted to test her strength. How could I have known that Hart would be so straightforward? Mr. Brat suddenly asked, is that mysterious strong person really as powerful as you say? Speaking of this, Mrs. Ryan's eyes lit up. Oh my God, I've never seen such elegant swordsmanship. I saw that she just held the sword and gently waved it, and then there was a flash of light. Then the sword was placed on Hart's neck. Mr. Brat pondered for a moment and finally decided. In that case, you should go and apologize in person. Such a strong person was worth lowering oneself to make friends with. Mrs. Ryan was not stupid. She understood her husband's meaning and nodded. Okay, I'll go and prepare. Mrs. Ryan's arrival was within Gu Xingyin's expectations. Your Excellency, I'm sorry for offending you today. Please forgive me. Mrs. Ryan sincerely apologized. Gu Xingyin didn't intend to do anything. After all, she was the mother of her lover in this life. She nodded and accepted Mrs. Ryan's gift. In the evening, Lancelot came to the small courtyard the Ryan family had arranged for Gu Xingyin. "I'm sorry." Gu Xingyin didn't say anything. Lancelot wasn't stupid. The other party was obvious enough. A dignified vampire princess came to the human world for him, accompanied him to practice swordsmanship, and paid attention to his health. What did he do to deserve her love? But she was wronged by him. He suddenly saw Gu Xingyin's figure move and disappear from the room. Lancelot was shocked. Did she leave in anger? He couldn't help but call out, "Catherine, are you there?" But no one answered. Lancelot sat on the ground dejectedly. She must be angry and didn't want to see him. Actually, Gu Xingyin did not think too much about it. She had suddenly disappeared because she had sensed Oliwen's aura. "You really are here." Owen's voice was emotionless. Looking at Gu Xingyin's puzzled gaze, Oliwen suddenly didn't know how to vent his anger. What should he say? Should she say that she had not been in Nightingale Castle for a long time, and that she had been staying in the house of a human man? Should she say that he was jealous and came looking for her regardless? What position did he have to say that? In the end, he could only force out a sentence. "I heard that you've been infatuated with a human recently, so I came to take a look." Gu Xingyin was not in a good mood. She retorted, "I remember that this is not the McAvoy family's territory." "Owen, aren't you overstepping your boundaries?" Oliwen was just about to speak when he suddenly stopped. He could clearly hear the words "Catherine" in the wind. "You actually allowed him to call you by your name?" Oliwen could only feel the anger in his heart burning up inch by inch. "Oliwen, Catherine, have no obligation to report to anyone when I do things. I still have something to do, so I'll leave first." Gu Xingyin turned to leave. A hand reached out to block her path. Chapter 163. Gu Xingyin looked at Oliwen, who was blocking her, in confusion. Owen's melancholy blue eyes had already turned dark red, and his cultured and refined face had also become devilishly charming. "Catherine, you are my fiancée. How can you have feelings for other men?" he said in a low voice. "What a joke." Catherine looked at him coldly. "Oliwen, where did you get the confidence to say such things to me?" Oliwen's eyes flashed with pain, but it was quickly covered by blood. "I will not allow you to like other men. The only person who is worthy of you is me." Oliwen looked at Gu Xingyin steadily. Gu Xingyin was confused by this development. What was going on? Didn't Oliwen like Rita? "Oliwen, your current situation is not normal. Look carefully. I am not Rita." Gu Xingyin looked at Oliwen's blood-red eyes and knew that this was a sign of the McAvoy family falling into madness. "Rita? So you think I like her?" Oliwen laughed in a low voice. "I am very clear-headed, Catherine. Who is Rita? If she didn't look a little like you, I wouldn't even look at her." "The one I love has always been you," he said with a sigh. Oliwen seemed to have revealed a secret that had been buried in his heart for many years. His eyes locked onto Gu Xingyin. Gu Xingyin was stunned by his words. "System, you did not tell me that Oliwen's true love is actually Catherine." The system was also very innocent. "I did not know either. This was not in the original plot." Gu Xingyin, this unreliable system. However, Oliwen still had to deal with it. "You love me, but you keep changing lovers. Oliwen, I really can't accept your love." Gu Xingyin's words were like a sharp knife stabbing into Oliwen's heart. He knew that a person like Catherine would not tolerate the fact that her other half was unfaithful. What if there's more to this matter than meets the eye? He refused to give up. Gu Xingyin looked at him steadily. "I don't want to know anything. You just need to tell me, are your lovers real?" Owen couldn't deny it. Gu Xingyin sneered, "Look, Oliwen, what are you using to prove your feelings for me? Are you going to use your endless supply of lovers?" She stopped talking and turned to leave. "Also, Owen, don't do anything to Lancelot, if you still want us to be friends." Her voice came from afar in the wind. Oliwen covered his face and laughed softly. deal with a human? Catherine, you are underestimating me, Owen McAvoy. Catherine was, after all, the highest leader of the Brooke family. It was impossible for her to spend all her time on Lancelot. She would only occasionally check on Lancelot's situation and leave some things behind. She would never meet with him. On the other hand, Rita's rate of improvement was shocking. Her strength was already close to that of a duke. The hierarchy of the blood race was very strict. High-ranking members of the blood race started from the count, followed by the marquis, the duke, and finally the prince. When she was transformed by Oli Wen, she was only a count. Even though Oli Wen's blood transformed her, her speed of improvement was still shocking. Chapter 164. Gu Xingyin took the time to visit the Loki kingdom. She did not tell anyone. She was surprised when she saw Rita. The woman in front of her was really Rita. Her lips were as red as blood, and she was drinking a cup of fresh blood. Rita, long time no see. Gu Xingyin greeted her. Rita's relaxed expression froze. She seemed to be in disbelief. Your Highness? It's me. Gu Xingyin walked over. Rita seemed to be in a panic. She stood up and bowed to Gu Xingyin. When she stood up, she saw her gorgeous dress and black fingernails. She paused for a moment. Your Highness, please take a seat. Rita personally poured a cup of fresh blood for Gu Xingyin and turned to leave. When she came out again, she had changed into the familiar look Gu Xingyin was familiar with. Gu Xingyin suddenly realized that she had gone to remove her thick makeup just now. You look more natural now. I almost didn't recognize you just now. Gu Xingyin said casually. Rita smiled shyly. Your Highness, how come you have time to come here? Gu Xingyin looked at her. I heard that you have been improving very quickly recently. I came to see the new Duke of the Vampires. With Rita's speed, it would not be a problem for her to become a duke. There were less than 10 dukes in the entire vampire race. Rita seemed a little embarrassed. In front of your Highness, a duke is nothing. Gu Xingyin looked at her. Don't belittle yourself, Rita. You are already very good. Gu Xingyin stayed in the Loki kingdom for a day. When it was time to leave, Rita was reluctant to leave. If you have time, you can come to the Nightingale Castle. You are always welcome. Gu Xingyin said. What a pity. Rita lowered her eyes. His Highness Owen felt that he would not allow a disloyal person like me to set foot in Nightingale Castle. After Gu Xingyin returned to the Nightingale Castle, she began to prepare for her hibernation. Every 500 years, the vampires would go through a period of weakness. Usually, they would enter a deep sleep during this period. This wasn't a small matter. The original Catherine had been sealed by Rita when she was in hibernation with a group of blood breeds. After confirming that the defensive measures of Nightingale Castle were all activated, Gu Xingyin also drew a huge defensive array in the basement where she chose to sleep. She left a message for Lancelot, saying that she had something to do and might not appear again for the next 100 years. The slumber of vampires ranged from a few decades to a few centuries. She had confidence in her lover. With his talent, she didn't know what he would become after 100 years. Gu Xingyin quietly fell into a deep sleep as she felt the energy in her body rapidly depleting. What she didn't know was that by the time she woke up, the world outside had already changed. When she woke up, the system heaved a sigh of relief. Host, you've finally woken up. The system's tone seemed to be very glad. How long have I been asleep? Did something happen? The system replied, the host has been in hibernation for 160 years. Rita led many members of the McAvoy family to betray Owen. What did you say? Gu Xingyin was shocked. Why? The system hesitated for a moment. It is said that Duke Rita coveted Prince McAvoy's fiancée and was driven out of the McAvoy family in anger. Gu Xingyin coveted Owen's fiancée. Doesn't she like Owen? Wait. Gu Xingyin's eyes widened. Owen's fiancée. Chapter 165. You mean to say, the person Rita likes is me? Gu Shengyin found it hard to believe. The system replied with silence. So, the reason Li Wen was jealous back then was because he could tell that Rita likes me and was jealous of Rita? The system fell silent once more. Gu Shengyin felt that she needed to calm down. How's Lance? She finally thought of her lover. Just as the system was about to speak, the restrictive barrier Gu Shengyin set up in the basement was broken. It was not brute force. Rather, it was the same method used to set up restrictive barriers. In this world, there was only one person who knew of this method. This time, there was no need for the system to answer. Sure enough, in the next second, Lancelot's face appeared before Gu Shengyin. "Catherine the Great," he called out to her with a hoarse voice. Then, he bent down and carried her out from the coffin. "Sword Sage, not bad. You have improved a lot. However, how did you get in?" Gu Shengyin asked as she leaned into his embrace. The man placed her down on a chair in the main hall. Then, he crouched down and said, "I fought my way in." Sure enough, in the next second, many of the castle's guards rushed in. When they saw Gu Shengyin, who was seated on the main seat, they said, "Your Highness," a very powerful human rushed in with a strange weapon. His words were suddenly cut short. That very powerful human was kneeling on the ground, helping their Grand Prince put on his shoes. Gu Shengyin cast a cold glance at them and said, "Leave." The guards obeyed and left. The guard who spoke earlier had a look of admiration on his face as he said, "As expected of Your Highness the Grand Prince. To think that such a powerful human would succumb to Your Highness the Grand Prince's charm." The main hall fell into a state of silence. Lancelot suddenly stood up and said, "You once told me that in order to become your man, I must first use my sword to prove my strength." Then, he bent down and looked at Gu Shengyin. The two of them could hear each other's breathing. "Now, do I have the qualifications?" Gu Shengyin raised his head, only to see his figure reflected in the other party's blue eyes. She chuckled softly, raised her hand, and wrapped it around his neck. Her breath smelled like orchids. "I allow you to call me Katiusha." Lancelot's expression suddenly became ecstatic. He couldn't wait any longer as he leaned over and pressed his lips on the woman's captivating red lips. Lancelot looked deeply at the person beneath him. He looked at her red lips that were especially moist because of the deep kiss just now. He looked at her eyes that were no longer cold and sparkling. "Can I?" He bent down and let her feel the changes in his body. Gu Shengyin didn't say anything. She just closed her eyes. At the height of his passion, Gu Shengyin could not help but extend his fangs and press them against Lancelot's neck. "My dear, Katiusha, bite down." Lancelot looked at her steadily. Gu Shengyin didn't hesitate any longer. Her fangs sank into his flesh. Lancelot felt as if fireworks were blooming in his mind. He groaned and fell onto Gu Shengyin's body. Gu Shengyin closed his eyes and indulged himself in sleep. When she woke up, she found herself lying on the bed. Her waist was held possessively by an arm. "Awake?" Lancelot's voice came from above her head. He was full of smiles. He wasn't asleep at all. Yesterday, he was overjoyed when he received his lover's approval. He didn't expect that there would be an even bigger surprise waiting for him. He stared at his lover's sleeping face and felt that he couldn't get enough of it. Chapter 166. After Gu Shengyin woke up, there were still a lot of things waiting for her to deal with. Not to mention the backlog of things in the Brooke family, there were still two troublesome matters. Owen and Rita. The two of them turned against each other because of Princess Brooke had caused an uproar among the vampires. Gu Shengyin's attitude towards this was to hold a banquet in Nightingale Castle. She was going to tell everyone that the Princess of Brooke already had someone she liked. Almost all the high-ranking blood breeds had received the invitation, including Owen and Rita. Many vampires were waiting to see how this would develop. However, they were disappointed. When Owen and Rita met, there were no sparks as expected. Both of them snorted coldly and went their separate ways. Actually, many vampires were curious. Rita was Owen's blood descendant. If Owen wanted her life, it would only take a thought. Why would he tolerate her until now? Gu Shengyin and Lancelot walked out together. The first thing she said made many blood breeds excited. Let me introduce you to the man beside me, Lancelot Ryan. He is my partner. Her words shocked everyone. Not a new lover, not a blood descendant, but a partner. Vampires were naturally flirtatious, but they treated their other half very seriously. To the vampires, a partner meant loyalty and never abandoning each other. Before the vampires found their other half, they would mostly play around. Once they found their partner, such a life would no longer exist. Many of the blood breeds secretly shifted their attention to Olivia and Rita, wanting to see their reactions. The result did not disappoint them. Both of their expressions changed. Rita even screamed, "Your Highness, why did you choose a human? Didn't you say you liked me a lot?" Gu Shengyin acutely sensed the cold gaze of the man beside her. She vaguely glared back. Stop fooling around. Rita's words had attracted the attention of many vampires to Gu Shengyin. Gu Shengyin looked a little helpless. She looked at Rita as if she was an elder looking at an unreasonable junior. Rita, I did say that I like you. I have always treated you as a very likable junior, and not the kind of feelings you want. I don't like women. Rita seemed to be unable to accept it. She had dressed up rather formally today, but in her grief, she could not care less about her exquisite makeup. She covered her face and wept softly. It's not like this, it shouldn't be like this. What about me? Catherine, do you still remember our engagement? Oh, Livingston looked straight at her. The word engagement successfully made Lancelot tighten his grip on his sword. That's right, she still had a legitimate fiancé. Owen, Gu Shengyin said seriously, the entire vampires know about our engagement. I have never interfered with the things you have done in the past. Now that I have found my partner, let's end our engagement. Oh, Li Wen calmly listened to her words. Just when everyone thought that he would get angry, he slowly smiled. I don't agree, unless, he looked straight at the man standing beside Gu Shengyin who had not spoken. Let him and me have a fair fight. Chapter 167. Owen's words caused many of the vampires to rejoice in his misfortune. Between Owen and Lancelot, all of the vampires were biased towards Owen. A weak human dared to covet the most honorable Prince Brooke of the vampires. What a fool. Everyone was waiting to see Lancelot make a fool of himself. Owen was the prince of the Maccabi clan, a noble pure-blooded. Among the vampires, only Catherine the Great was a match for him. No one else was a match for him. Not to mention humans. Many of them thought that Gu Shengyin would step forward to stop him. Unexpectedly, she only took a step back and gave the human space. It seemed that the prince didn't like the human that much. Many of the vampires thought, otherwise, he wouldn't have watched him die. Lancelot only glanced at Gu Shengyin, his eyes full of affection. As for the other vampires, except for Catherine the Great, no one else was worthy of his attention. He pulled out the sword in his hand. The moment the sword was unsheathed, his entire aura changed. If Lancelot was described as a good-looking human nobleman just now, then at this moment, he was like a sharp sword that had already been sharpened. His entire body was covered in the cold light of a sharp blade. The whispers died down immediately. Many members of the Blood clan had realized that this human was not as weak as they had imagined. Owen also put away his indifferent expression. He looked at Lancelot and said, "You are stronger than I had imagined." Lancelot looked at him calmly and said, "You might say the same thing again in a while." Owen sneered, "Shameless boasting. The number of people who dare to say such things in front of me can be counted on one hand." He looked at Gu Shengyin and said, "The person you like is such an arrogant person?" Gu Shengyin's expression did not change. "You will find out soon." Owen's heart ached at the unreserved trust in her words. He smiled and said, "All right, then let me see how strong a human can be." Lancelot's sword was already slashing down mercilessly. The development of the situation was beyond the expectations of the vampires. Was that man really human? Not some ancient god clan? How could a human possess such power? Many members of the blood race found it hard to believe that Lancelot was locked in battle with Owen. Looking at the calm and composed Gu Shengyin, who seemed to have expected this, the moods of the vampires changed. She was indeed worthy of the prince's attention. She was definitely not a mediocre person. Gu Shengyin's expression suddenly froze. With a flash of her body, she entered between the two people who were fighting. His hands deftly pushed and clapped, successfully separating the two people. That's enough. If she hadn't stopped them earlier and allowed them to continue fighting, it would have been a situation where both sides would have suffered. Are you that afraid of your man getting hurt? Oh, Li Wen sneered. Gu Shengyin turned to look at him. Oh, Li Wen, don't let your emotions get the better of you. Lancelot's sword aura is not something that can be easily healed by ordinary self-healing. Oh, Li Wen's expression warmed up for a moment when he heard that she was thinking for him. But in the next moment, he saw that man holding Catherine's hands and complaining intimately, "Are you hurt? Why did you rush out like that?" His good mood instantly disappeared without a trace. Chapter 168. When Gu Shengyin looked over, Owen did not wait for her to speak. He suddenly said, "Since this man is strong enough to be worthy of you, I will fulfill my promise. I, Owen of the McAvoy clan, announce that from today onwards, my engagement with Yekaterina Brooke is annulled." He looked at Gu Shengyin and said each word clearly. For some reason, Gu Shengyin could feel a strong sense of sadness from him even though his expression was calm. Lancelot knew what he was sad about. His intuition told him that Owen's feelings for Gu Shengyin were the same as his own. However, he was not in the mood to sympathize with a love rival. Oh, Li Wen didn't stay any longer. After saying that, he left. As the prince of the McAvoy clan, he should be strong and omnipotent. Even if he let go, he should be confident. After Owen left, Rita did not stay any longer. The Blood clan also left one after another. Lancelot became famous after that battle. No one dared to look down on him anymore. Gu Shengyin and Lancelot lived a peaceful life in Nightingale Castle for a long time. How did you survive for the past 100 years? Gu Shengyin leaned on the soft couch and looked at her lover who was reading a book. Lancelot raised his head and thought for a moment. At first, I stayed at home. Because I stubbornly refused to get married and have children, I lost my status as the successor of the Ryan clan. This was a relief for me. But then, after 10 or 20 years, the clan realized that my appearance had not changed at all. They began to fear me. There was even one time when I heard my parents talking about me, saying that I was a monster. His tone was very calm, as if he was talking about something unrelated to him. Gu Shengyin felt her heart ache when she heard that. She had forgotten that this world was different from the world of swordsmen. Ordinary people would find it hard to accept that one's appearance did not change and had a long lifespan. Later, I moved to a forest not far from Nightingale Castle. At that time, I no longer needed to eat grains. I don't have to worry about meeting strangers, and I can be closer to you. Before he could finish his sentence, Gu Shengyin suddenly stood up and hugged him. He gently kissed her long hair. Don't think too much. I don't feel sad about this kind of life. Because he always had a thought in his heart, he never felt that the days were difficult. Recently, the blood race had made several big news. Duke Rita had returned to Prince Maikavi's service. Princess Brooke had married that powerful and abnormal human in Nightingale Castle. At this time, the two were nowhere to be found. It was said that they were on their honeymoon. During the wedding, Prince McAvoy and Duke Rita attended as well. The few of them actually enjoyed the banquet as though they were not affected by the previous incident at all. Are you planning to take me on a tour of the entire continent? Gu Shengyin looked at the man. Lancelot hugged the person in his arms tightly. When I used to practice my swordsmanship, I always thought that one day, I would be able to leave our footprints in every part of the continent with you. He knew that Gu Shengyin had existed for countless years. Perhaps she had already seen the scenery of this continent countless times. But in the past, he was not there. He was so domineering. He hoped that when this woman recalled something, he would be in it. Chapter 169. Gu Xingyin raised her head and said to Lancelot, "You have to stay by my side. When I wake up, you'll be the first person I see." Lancelot dotingly looked at his lover's pale face because of her weakness. He leaned over and kissed her lips with heartache. "I promise I'll stay by your side until you wake up." Gu Xingyin laid down in the coffin with a peace of mind. Gu Xingyin was a little worried when the 500-year period of weakness came again. This time, it was the time when Rita wanted to swap blood with Catherine out of jealousy in the original plot. Although Rita and Li Wen did not have the chance to be together in this world, she did not think that Rita would be dissatisfied with her in this world. Gu Xingyin let her imagination run wild. She felt that she might be overthinking things. Coupled with the wave of weakness, she closed her eyes and fell into a trance. Lancelot did as he said. He personally guarded the basement where Gu Xingyin was sleeping and did not allow anyone to enter. He planned to accompany her through this deep slumber just like this. Until he received a letter from Li Wen. The letter was indeed written by Li Wen. The contents of the letter made him tremble. He turned around and looked at Gu Xingyin, who was still sleeping peacefully. He waved his hand and set up a layer of restriction before leaving in a hurry. The place where Li Wen had agreed to meet was very far away. Even though Lancelot was flying on his sword, it still took Lancelot almost half a day to arrive. Li Wen was already waiting there. He was pacing back and forth, looking very uneasy. What happened? The two of them asked at the same time when they saw each other. Lancelot's expression turned cold. "Weren't you the one who wrote the letter to ask me out?" Li Wen's expression changed. "You were the one who asked me out." "Oh no." Lancelot looked at his expression and thought of something. They did not speak anymore and hurried to Nightingale Castle. At this time, Nightingale Castle welcomed a group of uninvited guests. "Where is Her Highness' sleeping place?" Rita softly asked a vampire who was pressed to the ground. He was a guard of Nightingale Castle. The Blood Clan member looked at Rita with disdain. "Shameless traitor, you will receive your retribution." A hand pierced through his chest and crushed his heart. Rita slowly pulled her hand out and took out a white handkerchief to wipe off the blood stains on it. "Looks like they won't talk about it. Go and find them." The basement was quickly found. Rita suppressed the excitement in her heart. She could already see the magnificent coffin. "You, go take a look and see if His Highness Brooke is inside." She pointed at a vampire beside her. The Blood Clan member was obviously excited. He thought that this was a chance for him to show his face. He slowly walked into the coffin, glanced at it, and then turned back. "That's right, it's a grand prince." Countless snow-white sword lights appeared in the void and shredded him into pieces. "Just as I thought," Rita snorted. "Break the array here." Lancelot's expression suddenly darkened. Li Wen was worried. "What's wrong?" Lancelot's expression was gloomy. "The array I left at Katusha's sleeping place has been broken." Rita looked greedily at the sleeping Gu Xingyin. She could not help but reach out and touch her face. Her expression was full of obsession. "Your Highness." Chapter 170. Gu Xingyin was forcefully awakened by the system. If a sleeping blood breed was forcefully awakened, the consequences would be dire. However, the system could not do anything about it. If the host was not awakened, the consequences would be even worse. Even the mission in this world might fail. Rita was shocked by Gu Xingyin, who suddenly opened her eyes. "Your Highness?" Rita panicked. Wasn't Her Highness in a deep sleep and could not wake up? "Rita." Gu Xingyin's dark golden eyes looked at her emotionlessly. "You brought so many blood breeds to my castle to congratulate me on waking up from my deep sleep?" The aura of a prince instantly swept through the castle. The blood breeds who followed Rita could not help but kneel before Gu Xingyin. Even if Rita was unwilling, she could not resist the instinct of her bloodline. "Let me guess. What are you trying to do? Taking advantage of my weakened state to replace me?" Gu Xingyin sat in the coffin calmly, trying her best not to let any blood breeds see her weak state. She was forcefully awakened by the system and was still in a weakened state. Her combat power was less than 10%. If Rita really wanted to go all out, she might not be able to withstand it. The only thing she could do now was to pray that Lancelot would notice the problem with the restrictive spell and rush over. Rita trembled under her aura. I love your highness. So you brought so many advanced blood breeds, killed the guards of Nightingale Castle and forced your way in? Rita's heart was filled with despair. She did not bother to explain herself. She just lay on the ground and waited for Gu Xingyin's verdict. However, after a long time, she did not hear any movement from Gu Xingyin. Rita raised her head and saw Gu Xingyin looking at her with a complicated expression. There was regret, pity, and pain. Rita, who was about to accept her fate, was provoked by Gu Xingyin's gaze. She suddenly straightened up and looked at Gu Xingyin. Your Highness, why are you still showing me such an expression at a time like this? You don't know that it was you who made me hold some unrealistic hopes. Then, you personally shattered my hopes. Gu Xingyin, oh no, I think I overdid it. After Rita finished her sentence, she seemed to know that she had no chance at all. She was waiting for Gu Xingyin to deal with her. However, she still did not see Gu Xingyin take any action. Rita suddenly had an epiphany. She gritted her teeth and slowly stood up. Your Highness. She tried to approach Gu Xingyin. Let me guess. It's not that you don't want to make a move, but you can't, right? She looked at Gu Xingyin and revealed a strange smile. Your words just now were just to buy time. You didn't wake up naturally at all. You forcefully woke up from your deep sleep, right? Gu Xingyin secretly ridiculed her sister. Do you have to be so quick-witted? Rita suddenly raised her head and a dense dark energy burst out from her body. The Blood Clan members who were being suppressed by Gu Xingyin stood up one by one. As expected, even the level suppression is weak. Rita smiled and moved closer to Gu Xingyin. Your Highness, you should be an arrow at the end of its flight, right? Gu Xingyin's expression did not change. Even if I only have 10% of my strength left, Rita, with just you and this motley crew, you won't be able to get away with it. Rita sneered. Whether or not they can get away with it, we'll only know after we try. Chapter 171. Reality had proven that even though Gu Xingyin only had 1/10 of her strength left, she was still able to hold her ground under the siege of so many high-level blood breeds. However, she was only able to hold her ground. Rita was getting more and more excited. She said to the blood breeds behind her, she is very weak now. As long as she can hold on a little longer, we will succeed. Gu Xingyin was indeed unable to hold on any longer. Waves of weakness came from within her body. She even felt that her vision was becoming blurry. Lancelot, if you don't come over, I will really fall into an eternal slumber. She muttered. The system could not interfere with the normal development of the plot. The most it could do was to wake the host up and prevent her from falling into a deep slumber so quickly. As if he had really heard her words, she felt Lancelot's aura in the next moment. A sword light that was filled with rage and murderous intent slashed towards Rita with an unstoppable momentum. No matter how fast Rita was, she was not as fast as the sword light. She dodged quickly and avoided her vitals, but her entire left arm was chopped off. Lancelot had no time to care about her. His figure flashed and he appeared beside Gu Xingyin. However, he only caught his lover's falling body. The blood breeds knelt down once again. The bloodline suppression from Prince McAvoy at his peak was not something that Gu Xingyin could barely compare to. Rita, you are very good. You are very good. Owen gritted his teeth and looked at her. Rita knew that this operation had completely failed. She raised her head and smiled disdainfully at Owen. I am not a coward like you. If you like something, you have to fight for it yourself. If I had your strength, I would never let her fall into the hands of others. Owen lowered his head and looked at her. Even if you don't care about her wishes and make her hate you forever? Rita's expression changed. She sneered and said, "That is still better than nothing." Owen looked at her from above. "The bloodline and glory bestowed upon me by the McAvoy family makes me disdainful of such despicable and lowly actions. Your actions are unworthy of the bloodline of the McAvoy family. I will take back the bloodline I bestowed upon you." Just as he finished his sentence, an obvious change happened to Rita. Her delicate skin quickly shriveled up, and her moist red hair suddenly became white and dull. In just a few seconds, she had turned from a young woman in her prime into an old woman with one foot in the grave. This isn't me. This isn't me. Rita almost screamed. This is you. Without the bloodline I bestowed upon you, you are nothing. Li Wen no longer looked at her and turned to leave. Without the blood clan's ability to live forever, this woman wouldn't be able to live much longer. What's wrong with her? Owen came to Lancelot's side. He's asleep. The other party's answer was concise and comprehensive. Li Wen looked at Gu Xingyin carefully. She forcefully woke up during her weak period and fought with someone. This time, her slumber may be prolonged indefinitely until her strength is fully recovered. Lancelot picked her up. It's all right. I have enough time to wait for her to wake up. Li Wen watched him leave with her in his arms. After a while, he looked away and laughed self-deprecatingly. He accepted his fate and helped him clean up the mess behind him. Chapter 172. No one knew where Lancelot had taken her, except for Li Wen, who could occasionally find her whereabouts. The last time Li Wen saw him, he was building a house in a deserted valley and lived there for 20 years. Have you ever thought about what if she never wakes up? In fact, Li Wen had already sensed that the power in Gu Xingyin's body was slowly recovering. It might not take many years for her to wake up. He couldn't stand Lancelot's affectionate expression and deliberately wanted to provoke him. After so many years, the two of them had unexpectedly become good friends. Then I will accompany her. When I can no longer accompany her, I will put my ashes beside her. Lancelot was putting a bouquet of flowers with dew beside Gu Xingyin's pillow. Li Wen looked at him and suddenly felt very envious. Unfortunately, he would never have the chance to love someone like this again. Gu Xingyin woke up in the autumn when the leaves fell. When she woke up, Lancelot was sitting beside her. You're awake? Lancelot's smile was as gentle as ever, as if this was a routine greeting every morning. Gu Xingyin also smiled. Yes, I'm awake. In this world, Gu Xingyin didn't know how long she had been with Lancelot. She only remembered that she had experienced innumerable times of weakness and deep sleep, and every time she opened her eyes, Lancelot would look at her with a gentle smile. A swordsman's lifespan was not unlimited, and Lancelot had inevitably entered a period of weakness. Don't be sad. Lancelot still looked so young, and he still held her so gently. I am satisfied that I can accompany you for so many years. He looked at Gu Xingyin. During this period, I think I have had many intermittent dreams about the two of us. He smiled and said, we seem to be destined to be lovers. In every life, I will meet you, and then we will be very happy. Gu Xingyin wanted to cry. Katiusha, don't change me. He kissed her lips. Gu Xingyin nodded. She had lived long enough in this world. Lancelot left quietly. Gu Xingyin did not seem to be particularly sad. She placed his ashes in her bedroom. When the next period of weakness came, she stepped into the coffin with his ashes with a calm expression. Your Highness, that human is already dead. His Highness Prince Brook is now considered single. Other than you, no one else is worthy of her, a member of the blood clan said to Owen. Owen shook his head. No one else would have that chance. That person was dead and Catherine would never wake up again. His guess was right. Gu Xingyin fell asleep and never woke up again. The first thing Gu Xingyin did when she returned to the space was to summon the system. Actually, you know who he is, right? She was not stupid. Even if the system could not find out the identity of her lover, it was impossible that it could not find out after such a long time. This time, the system changed its answer. The host does not have enough authority to find out. Gu Xingyin, very good, you are ruthless. Then when will I have the authority? The system's white light flashed. There is no hard and fast rule. When that person is willing to let the host know, the host will know. Gu Xingyin. You win. Chapter 173. Owen Maikavi. He was a third-generation blood breed, the noblest pure blood. He was also the strongest existence in the entire blood breed. However, he was destined to be unable to love anyone. That was because he was born with a curse, and the person who cursed him was his mother. As he was too powerful, he had absorbed almost all of his mother's energy when he was still in her womb. She was afraid of him and she cursed him to die prematurely. However, she did not succeed. When he was born, the woman who gave birth to him was at the end of her life. He was born with this knowledge, so he clearly heard the woman using the last bit of strength in her life to cast the most vicious curse on her own son. You monster! I curse you, never get close to the person you love. Otherwise, you will bring her bad luck. You will kill her. Ha 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 ha. He did not take it to heart in the past. The blood breed had such a long lifespan. What kind of relationship could withstand such a long period of training? Everyone was just playing around. As long as they did not fall in love, the curse would never come true. However, he did not know that feelings were one of the most uncontrollable things. He had fallen in love with his fiancée. What kind of man would not be moved by such a woman? How ironic. He was her fiancé. He should have been the one who could rightfully possess her. However, he could not get close to her. He could only wander between different types of men and women to earn himself a reputation of being a playboy. He used this as an excuse to escape from his true feelings. He watched as Catherine looked at him. At the beginning, her eyes were filled with anticipation, disappointment, and finally, calmness. He knew that she had given up on him. He saw the human girl named Rita. She had the same red curly hair and fair skin as Catherine. Even her brown eyes were similar to Catherine's dark golden eyes. Thus, he converted her. In the dead of the night, he would treat her as his fiancée and deceive himself. Rita was too smart. She could tell that he had feelings for Catherine. Even she was attracted to him. He chased everyone away angrily. He wanted everyone who had feelings for Catherine to disappear. However, he could secretly get rid of those who had feelings for her. But what about the people Catherine liked? No one told him what to do. He looked at her and the human named Lancelot and smiled at each other. Finally, he could not hold it in any longer and blurted out the feelings that he had hidden for thousands of years. What he got in return was her surprise and disbelief. That's right. He laughed at himself. Based on what he had done in the past, who would dare to believe that he was sincere? He was not willing to give up, so he proposed to compete with that human. In fact, he regretted it as soon as the words left his mouth. Such despicable behavior was unlike him. That man did not disappoint him. A human could actually possess such great power. He was worthy of her. Since he would never be able to give her happiness, then he would give her his blessings. He told himself to let go, but why did his heart, which had long been numb, hurt so much? That man was dying. He knew that no matter how strong he was, a human's lifespan was limited. However, he didn't understand why Catherine didn't change him. He had a premonition that if that man left, he would never be able to see Catherine again. Sure enough, she lay down and never woke up again. From then on, he alone guarded the entire blood race until the end of time. Chapter 174. Gu Xingyin looked at her current situation. System, I think you should explain. System, in this mission world, the host's original body, Shen Xiaoxiao, got into a car accident 2 years ago when she was on vacation. Her parents died on the spot, and Shen Xiaoxiao also lost the ability to stand up and walk. Gu Xingyin, System, the system recommends the host to choose the self-healing ability of the blood breeds from the previous world. Gu Xingyin laughed. Don't tell me, you already thought about it. Although she said that, she also knew that the system's suggestion was the most suitable for her at the moment. She couldn't really bear to sit in a wheelchair for the rest of her life. Closing her eyes, Gu Xingyin began to receive the system's transmission of the world's storyline. Ever since the car accident, the original Shen Xiaoxiao's temperament had changed greatly. She became cold and didn't like to talk. Not to mention going out, even her former friends had all cut off contact. At the beginning of this year, the latest holographic MMORPG, Spirit Sword Fairy, seemed to have opened the door to a new world for her. In the game, she could freely walk and run like a normal person. No one would look at her with sympathy or pity. Because she was willing to spend money and time in the game, Shen Xiaoxiao's in-game ID was Luo Mu Xiao. She could be considered a famous expert in their server, Riverside Immortals. It was just that this expert was very cold. This was the impression the entire server had of her. She didn't have any friends in the game, until that woman appeared. That ID was Xiao Lu Yenyu, and she was obviously a newbie. That day, Luo Mu Xiao passed by the novice village and saw Xiao Lu Yenyu running away pathetically from a group of low-level monsters. She remembered that she wanted to refine a weapon. Coincidentally, there was a material that could be dropped from these monsters, so she took care of those monsters. Little did she know that Xiao Lu Yenyu would pester her from then on, insisting on worshipping her as her master. Shen Xiaoxiao refused to look at her countless times, but she didn't give up. It wasn't until a month later that Luo Mu Xiao finally relented and accepted her as her disciple. Lu Yenyu was lively and liked to act like a spoiled child. Every time Shen Xiaoxiao saw her, she would think of her own ragdoll cat, Tuesday. Although she didn't like to talk and had an introverted personality, once she acknowledged someone, she would treat that person wholeheartedly. She brought Lu Yenyu to do quests, helped her to get equipment, helped her to forge weapons, everything a master could do, no one could do better than her. She felt that she had at least met a true friend in the game. Until one day, she heard a conversation between Lu Yenyu and another player. He didn't know if Lu Yenyu was careless or if she forgot to turn on private chat. I wasn't wrong, right? Luo Mu Xiaoxiao is someone who lacks love in real life. Give her a bit of warmth, a bit of sweetness, and she'll be like a dog that smells a bone, clinging onto you and not letting go. Lu Yenyu said proudly. Yenyu, you're amazing. Ha ha ha, I'm still missing a spirit rhino stone. Tomorrow, I'll go look for my good master and act like a spoiled child. Shen Xiaoxiao was practically running away. Luo Mu Xiaoxiao's heart wasn't very good to begin with, and the car accident before caused her body to suffer quite a bit of damage. In a fit of anger, she actually went into shock. Then, Gu Xingyin became Shen Xiaoxiao. In Gu Xingyin's eyes, this Shen Xiaoxiao was a bit too sensitive and fragile. If it was her, she probably would have killed that bitch with a single slash of her sword. But she had gone through a great change, so her delicate and sensitive personality was understandable. Xiao Lu Yenyu, right? Shen Xiaoxiao repeated the name twice, coldly laughing. Chapter 175. Gu Xingyin thought for a long time before she found a mirror in an inconspicuous corner. Ever since she left the hospital, Shen Xiaoxiao had asked the housekeeping company to remove all the mirrors in the house. Gu Xingyin had to search through her memories to find this side. He reckoned that the original owner of this body had forgotten about it. The girl in the mirror had the kind of delicate and beautiful facial features that were unique to southern girls, but her pale and dull complexion and lifeless eyes had shaved off half of her beauty. Gu Xingyin sighed to herself. Shen Xiaoxiao was also a person with a hard life. I will live through this life for you. System, confirm that I have inherited the blood breed's self-healing ability. Gu Xingyin ordered. The system's white light flashed, and a halo appeared in its body, slowly landing on Shen Xiaoxiao's body. In fact, it landed on Gu Xingyin's soul and Shen Xiaoxiao's body. Gu Xingyin felt a comfortable feeling spread throughout her body, as if the heavy and powerless feeling in her body had disappeared without a trace. However, a sour and numb feeling came from all parts of his body, especially his legs. She knew that this was the effect of the self-healing ability, but this feeling was indescribable. System, How long will it take to completely heal all the diseases in this body? Gu Xingyin asked. The system said, with Shen Xiaoxiao's body condition, half a month for the other parts of her body, but a month for her legs. Gu Xingyin said, please help me block all perception. She was not in a hurry to enter the game. She looked around the house. Shen Xiaoxiao's family was very well off, and after the car accident, she received a large sum of compensation. It could be said that even if she did not do anything for the rest of her life and only spent money, she could still live a carefree life. She was now living alone in a high-end duplex bungalow. This was where the family of 3 used to live. After Shen Xiaoxiao's parents passed away, many people tried to persuade her to move to another place so that she would not be sad, but Shen Xiaoxiao insisted on not moving. Gu Xingyin didn't have a problem with living here, but she had a problem with the decoration of the whole house. Was it really okay for a young lady in her 20s to make her room look like a 70-year-old auntie? As far as the eye could see, there was not a single bright object in the entire room. It was no wonder that Shen Xiaoxiao would become like that. Even a normal person would probably become reclusive after staying in such an environment for a long time. Gu Xingyin spent a whole week contacting housekeeping companies and shopping malls to renovate her room. Her legs were inconvenient, so she had been living on the first floor. The upper floors were still the same as before the accident, so there was no need to renovate them. The housekeeping company's auntie, who often came to Shen Xiaoxiao's house to do part-time work, smiled happily. Miss Shen, how many times have I advised you that young people should be more energetic? You've finally figured it out. Gu Xingyin was very grateful for the auntie's kindness. She smiled and said, Auntie Liang, you're right. If I stay like this, my parents will be very sad if they know. I want to live happily so that they can rest assured. Auntie Liang looked at her and could not help but tear up. Her children were about the same age as Shen Xiaoxiao, and for more than a year, every time she looked at Shen Xiaoxiao's appearance, she felt very sad. Fortunately, the girl had finally walked out. Chapter 176. After settling everything, Gu Xingyin picked up the gaming helmet at the bedside. She was actually a little curious. Holographic online games did sound very magical. A white light flashed and Gu Xingyin found herself on a green grassland. She could even see a few butterflies flying among the flowers. She tried to walk 2 steps. It was very agile, almost no different from living in the real world. The technology of this world had already developed to a very powerful stage. At this time, she heard a constant beeping sound beside her. At the same time, a delicate voice was heard, Master, where are you? Master, I am stuck at the one-line sky. Can you come over? Master, are you there? Master, are you offline? I am learning how to refine equipment. I am still missing a spiritual rhino stone. When you come online, can you help me get one? Gu Xingyin glanced at it. They were all messages from the same ID, Lu Yenyu. Without saying anything, she cleared the screen. Following the route in her memory, Gu Xingyin came to a place. This was a hell difficulty instance. Previously, Luo Mu Xiaoxiao was stuck here for 2 days. Not only Luo Mu Xiaoxiao, no player in the server had been able to pass this level. Luo Mu Xiaoxiao's job was a swordsman. Her appearance was very ordinary. She had white hair and black hair. Behind her back was a 3-foot-long sword. Her appearance was also not outstanding. In this game, players could adjust their appearance by 100%. Most players adjusted their appearance. Only Shen Xiaoxiao, who did not take the normal route, chose to adjust her appearance by 100%. Thus, in general, Luo Mu Xiaoxiao's appearance did not look outstanding at all. She tried to slash monsters. The first time, after 2 rounds, Luo Mu Xiaoxiao, pounce. The second time, after 10 rounds, Luo Mu Xiaoxiao, pounce. On the third time, Gu Xingyin was more or less familiar with the game. Holographic online games had high requirements for the player's reaction speed, agility, strength and so on. Many of the experts in Linjiang Immortal server were born in the army. However, what could be more familiar with swordsmen than Gu Xingyin, who had lived in the world of swordsmen for thousands of years. Therefore, on the fourth try, after more than 10 minutes of fighting with the boss, Gu Xingyin managed to clear out the boss HP with a beautiful slash. Announcement: player Luo Mu Xiao has killed the world boss Bull Demon King, completing the server's first kill and achieving a heaven-defying achievement. She is rewarded with a celestial weapon, Water Dragon Roar. The world channel instantly exploded. Playing Chopper again, what the fuck, I soloed Bull Demon King. I can't even last 3 rounds. Falling tree rustling is awesome. Cute, immortal equipment. There are immortal artifacts in this game? I'm still wearing my gold equipment, and the god is already using his celestial equipment. Piglet, I thought that the first kill would be Mountain River Sword Guru. Fleeting observation: when did Luo Mu Xiao become so awesome? I've had a PK with her before. She doesn't seem like someone who can kill Bull Demon King. I only look but don't speak. Upstairs, Luo Mu Xiao must have been going easy on you. Mountain River and I were preparing to kill Bull Demon King in the dungeon. When we saw Luo Mu Xiao, we waited at the side. I was bored, so I recorded it. Take the link. No need to thank me. I'm not talking anymore. I'm going to kneel and lick her for another minute. The world channel was silent for a few minutes. Then. Fleeting observation: fuck, 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 fuck. Thank you, Almighty, for your mercy. Chapter 177. Gu Xingyin looked at the chat log and searched nearby. Sure enough, she saw a few people standing nearby. I only looked and didn't speak. Seeing that Gu Xingyin had discovered them, he rushed over with a howl: Great God, fallen tree deity, from today onwards, you are my idol. Gu Xingyin glanced at him and didn't say anything. She turned around and left. I only looked and didn't speak. Great God is indeed as cold as the legends say. Fallen tree deity. A cold voice called out to her, are you interested in a PK with me? Gu Xingyin stopped in her tracks and saw the man who spoke. He had the same white clothes and black hair, but he was much more gorgeous than fallen tree deity's simple appearance. Gu Xingyin noticed that there were dark lines on his collar and sleeves. From time to time, there was a flash of dark light. He was so particular about playing a game. Presumably, this person was also someone who wouldn't compromise in real life. His appearance was very handsome. For Gu Xingyin to comment on him like this, his appearance was indeed very outstanding. However, due to the game's appearance adjustment, it was unknown how much of his handsomeness was exaggerated. Gu Xingyin noticed his ID. Mountain River Single Sword? The server's #1 player on the PK leaderboard? Gu Xingyin raised her eyebrows. Sure. Coincidentally, she also wanted to see what kind of standard the normal players in this game were at. The two of them arrived at the arena. Almost at the same time, they drew their swords. I only looked and didn't speak. I was dazzled. Swordsman was the most popular class in Spirit Sword Fairy. Who didn't dream of traveling the world with a sword when they were young? Moreover, swordsman's style and moves were the most stylish in the entire game. Of course, the requirements for the players were also the highest. Mountain River Single Sword was recognized as the strongest swordsman in the server. Many players even thought that he was the #1 swordsman in the entire server. He was also the #1 player on the PK leaderboard. Although Fallen Tree Deity was strong in the past, she wasn't a match for Mountain River Single Sword. But now, you let me win. Gu Xingyi nodded at Mountain River Single Sword and turned to leave. The #1 Blade Master in the server was indeed very strong. This time, the Mountain River Sword did not stop her. Beep. Gu Xingyin opened the virtual page. Player, Mountain River Sword, has requested to add you as a friend. Gu Xingyin thought about Shen Xiaoxiao's character and refused without hesitation. But in the next second, beep. Player Mountain River Sword has requested to add you as a friend. Gu Xingyin refused again. Ding. Player Mountain River Sword has requested to add you as a friend. This time, Mountain River Sword added a sentence. I received a hidden mission. I need to add you as a friend before I can form a party. Gu Xingyin hesitated for a moment before agreeing. On the other side, Mountain River Sword smiled helplessly. He never thought that there would be a day when he would be despised by someone. He even had to find a reason to add someone as a friend. Not good, the players had already noticed the change in the PK leaderboard. One Sword of Mountains and Rivers, who was originally high and mighty, silently moved down a position. And the position of number 1 was occupied by Fallen Tree Deity. Little moon like little millet, oh my god, the unchanging number 1 on the PK leaderboard has been challenged. Who is this Fallen Tree Deity? Cursory observation, upstairs, you haven't been online for the past 2 days? Who is Fallen Tree Deity? Go to the forum and click on the hottest post. You'll know. Playing Chopper again, Fallen Tree Deity is too fierce. First, she killed the boss, Bull Demon King. Then, she challenged Mountain River Sword. If it wasn't for the fact that this game can't change gender, I wouldn't believe that she's a woman. Girl is me, Chopper, what do you mean? Are you looking down on women? Come to the arena and PK with me.